Absolute Marvel and well, Absolute Marvel, Ultimate
Huh.
Marvel,
Ultimate
and
DC?
Absolute DC have been big time successes for the big two, and they're riding high. Absolute Batman has been the number one bestseller every week it comes out. Same thing with Ultimate Spider-Man. And I'm sure that Marvel and DC could not be any happier. What's better than having one Batman or one Spider-Man that will sell like hotcakes? Do. And so the question is, what can Marvel and what can DC learn from the success of these micro lines that can be applied to the rest of what they do? Because we all understand that these are successes, but why are they working so well? And can some things that they're doing well be shifted over and applied logically to the mainline books? We're going to be diving into that topic here this morning, and the gang's all here. We've got Cale,
What's up, hot dogs?
Marco,
Ultimate Pals.
Tyler,
Hi guys, I'm normal.
and I'm Sean. I wish you guys could hear well, there was a pre-show over on Discord that our listeners were involved in, but I wish you could hear the pre-show banter on our Zoom call. Marco is an interesting human.
Stop.
That's a gem for us.
My brain bounces around everywhere.
He'll just talk, and we're all still waking up. He helps wake us up because Marco is on it as soon as he wakes up.
Easy. I woke up at 6 this morning.
We've done so many like after shows and like pre-shows that are like trying to capture this energy, but it's like lightning in a bottle. Like we just can't. It's never exactly right.
Tyler, you've never woken up in the same house as Marco, have you?
Hey, don't make that assumption.
Fair.
Well, I have. And this motherfucker literally wakes up singing,
Rings.
talking, and it's just like, what the fuck, man?
I would
Ball
like.
of energy.
Why do you want to be here so bad?
I'm happy to be alive.
Like I can't even call you.
Why?
I can't even call you a morning person though because you're the same at night.
It's just a constant stream of
Just a dude that loves life.
Damn.
Disgusting.
Yeah, vile.
Yeah, stop it. Thank you for being here with us, whether you are live or in the future. We're happy to have you. There was a little Discord pre-show get together. So if that type of thing sounds intriguing to you, maybe a couple of us, a lot of our listeners hanging out. It was a good group of people. That is something that's happening now on Saturday, so you can join our Discord and take part of that. Liviu Christian Dragon says, so happy to finally catch you guys live. Time zone difference is always an obstacle. Well, thank you for even caring to try to make it to us live and for suffering the time zone differences. We appreciate you being here. That goes for everybody that is listening. Thank you so much. Make sure you hit that like button as we get in here and get started. Um, so Marvel and DC, they've both, they both had the same idea at essentially the same time, right? We're going to create these micro lines where we can essentially curate a group of books that is, smaller. That's why I'm using the phrase micro line that was coined by David Harper of Sketched. Um, Smaller, more compact, easier to control and maintain, not just in terms of managing the creative teams or managing the stories, but managing the interconnectivity. You know, I would say largely these series have been siloed unto themselves. There hasn't been a lot of cross pollination yet, very little, in fact.
yeah,
Um,
directly. There's
yeah,
reference, but not like outright.
and yet there hasn't been any complaining about that fact because these are the get in points. These are the beginning points for these characters. And so you want to see them alone. And on top of that, like I said, there are a maximum between both lines. You're talking about less than 10 books, less than 10 ongoings. So that's insane. But what are the things that you think make these lines so appealing?
Can we start at your last point there? Actually, the size of the lines, because I think that's important. I think when a company like DC was putting out 52 ongoings at one time, and I don't even know what the number's at right now in terms of like across the board ongoings. It's a lot still, and knowing what to buy is hard for some people. Think about like when people were trying to get into Krakoa X-Men. A lot of people didn't really know where to start. People always point Hoxpox and stuff like that, but like, where do you go if you're in the middle of it? How do I jump in? And it's really clear with these lines. The absolute line is just Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman right now, and each are only at 4 issues. Anyone can figure that out, and if they like one of them, then they know where to look for the other two. If I like Spider-Man right now, that's a big if. What else do I pick up? Spider-Boy? I don't know. Spider-Verse? Some of the Venom book somewhere? I don't know. So I think the tightness of the line is important, and I think that's where they can have issues going down the line too.
To that end, also, I think using the number one as an actual number one for these marquee characters, instead of making it just like an arc reset or a title reset, is massive.
It's not a new status quo; it's an origin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and before we move forward, MP with the 4.99. No events / crossovers in Absolute DC has been a smart move so far. Let creators cook and make it easy for readers to follow. Build that reader base. Agreed, and definitely there's a point I want to get to with regards to like events and the lack of interaction. But going back to your point, Tyler, I think the does that become a problem down the road insofar as we have 15 issues, 20 issues, they can become starting points for people, but at what point do they no longer become that starting point? And at what point is there an expectation from people that they will be integrated? Because I think that's also part of the promise of something like Marvel, like the universe, is they will need to be connected and directly.
I mean, that's the problem with numbers. They always go up with these things. If you're counting up.
Right.
So eventually the typical comic book problem could show up here. But I think then it depends on how they collect their books. How do you point a new reader to read the previous stuff in a direct and easy to understand way? And have we don't have collections solicited for the first volumes of Absolute yet, do we?
Nah,
Not sure.
It's a little early.
Okay, yeah, because we're only at 4 or so, and it's
Yeah.
DC, so God knows when they're going to put out that first trade.
Pretty quick. For these are the highest profile
Sure.
things they have.
I'm curious if it'll be like if they'll have a compact version too.
Well,
That's self-immolation. If you have a $10 collected at the same time as, the other versions when you're putting out $4.99 books, that's insane. No one's going to buy
fair.
the larger collecteds. I think that these lines have worked for a few reasons. Oh, Near says I'm pretty sure they are solicited. Okay, so cool. The biggest reasons to me are creative. I think people underestimate how important it is to have creators who are allowed to be creative on a comic. Really, in any medium. When the creativity is filtered through, all kinds of people, business people that don't get, creativity, when putting books out at a certain time and pace, uh, supersedes the quality of what's inside the comics. If you were here for the New 52 deep dive that we did, that is an example of how these things can go wrong. The big corporate idea is the new 52. That's what that looks like. When it comes from corporate, when it comes from the big wigs, when it comes from the people who have, suits breathing down their necks, it's like, all right, let's do 52 number ones. But when it comes from the creators and it comes from the people who have to make these comics, it's like, let's do three. Let's do three. Let's do the best three that we can, and let's show people that we've got a big idea. And at Marvel, it's a very similar concept, and it works because they found creators who have something to say with these characters that we actually care about, and they married the best parts of Big Two comics, IP and big ideas. That is, to me, the crux of why this works. It's hard to do that idea across a larger line because there aren't 52 Scott Snyder, Kelly Thompson, and Jason Aaron's.
Yeah. So the combination there being small line, and because of that small line, you facilitate more creativity because the pool of creatives that you're picking from are already small. So you have to pick the best of the best in order to be able to put those out. Um, that makes sense. And I think if we're trying to take that lesson though to the to mainline, the issue comes, well, I'm pretty sure that the bottom line won't be fed with just one Spider-Man, one X-Men, one Avengers, one book of a title. It almost requires having 3 or 4 Spider-Man books, two Avengers titles, one random Namor title here or there. Like I think they are locked into having to spend creative energy on a multitude of books to be able to actually make revenue.
And you're talking about mainline in that way,
Right?
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
I think mainline Big Two comics are kind of hampered by the business of it all. Having to put out all these Spider-Man comics to then be able to lift up and maybe do a Namor comic, or the idea that they're IP farms. Really, there's a reason why all of we are getting a lot of X-Men solo titles right now. That's because those will be characters in non-comics media eventually. And to have that bunkered down, I think Absolute and Ultimate don't have to deal with that yet. And I think that's been a benefit because the creatives are allowed to cook. They don't have to think about, oh, well, we have to do this crossover every year, even though Ultimate is doing one this summer. But that, they can kind of make those decisions from a creative standpoint rather than a business standpoint. And it's working better than the business driven comics, which should say something, honestly.
Yeah, when it comes to the point about crossovers, I feel like it's not real to give these micro lines credit for not having crossovers because they just started.
Yeah.
And we know that there are crossovers coming. So it took only 1 year for both companies, really, since the inception of these new lines to get an event out. So I'm not interested in giving Marvel or DC any credit. I mean, Ultimates, the Ultimate line started with Ultimate Invasion, which was either the beginning of last year or the tail end of 23, and so it's been a year. Um, and these companies are going to get their events off. I think the way they do them is going to be pretty telling, um, especially with Absolute. The Ultimate line for me is like it's pretty close to just a mainline line, but it's smaller because it just started. And so I expect we know what the event is going to be. We know what we're facing off. We're facing off the return of the Maker. And that's typical shit. Oh wow, Thanos is back. Oh wow, Doom's got a plan, whatever. The difference between that, which you typically get in mainline, and what Ultimates is doing, the Ultimate line, is that they're telling you exactly when it's going to happen and a general idea of what it's going to be a year plus out from the occurrence. So you know when it's coming, and you know that what you're reading is leading to something very specific.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of the key is everything is driving to it.
Well, Matt Fisher here, and with two separate super chats and one relevant to this. First, he said 199. Good morning, my little brand muffins, which I read in Alan Cummings' voice. But then he also said for 499, Ultimates have to do a crossover. It's literally part of the story, and I think that's good because a lot of the times we have crossovers. It's like, why are these guys crossing over? What's the point here?
Yeah.
You can see the skeleton of, well, this is to push sales for one of the titles, whereas this is creatively storyline driven crossovers.
And it needs to happen. It needs to happen because that is the story that they're telling. And I think the foresight, the building of expectation, it builds anticipation. And anticipation turns it, if it's done right with good creators, becomes excitement. And I think that that's what they're capitalizing on at the moment. Whereas we don't really have that for Absolute quite yet. There is no like aimed at target for an end goal. These are different stories being told through a creator focused lens. And so up until the point where we have to reach, this has to tie back into the dark side of it all. And so it's allowing itself time to build up to that, but in a different way than the Ultimate Universe. And I think the Ultimate Universe is doing it a little bit better because of that.
Well, I would argue that it's the exact same thing, because outside of the Ultimates themselves, the actual superhero team, none of the other characters are aware of this countdown. So they're just doing their stories. The same way that the Absolute Universe characters aren't aware of Darkseid energy. But we, the reader, know that those Absolute characters are on a collision course with Darkseid. That is going to explode. And so it gives us a clear-cut idea of where this universe is going. What's going to happen after Darkseid? What's going to happen after the Maker? Who knows? But what's in front of us is that. And that's exciting. And when you contrast that with mainline, where, let's just use the most recent Marvel event, Blood Hunt. You could, if you felt like it, you could give Marvel grace and you could say, oh, they've been building up to this event for years. But not really. Like, some writers had been building up to a vampire event, but not Blood Hunt, certainly. And so the real build up to Blood Hunt starts with Blood Hunt #1.
Mm.
And that is not exciting. Like, whether you like Blood Hunt or not is immaterial. It's not like exciting as a weekly comic book reader that the event just starts out of nowhere. Like, oh shit, we're here. Anybody who was around for the Civil War buildup, the Secret Invasion buildup, take your pick. You remember that the event for you doesn't start with the issue 1. It starts with whenever the in-universe characters start getting to that point and the drama is building towards that. And they don't do that anymore.
They literally used to have Road 2 comics
Yeah.
that were
Yeah.
meant as build up to this stuff.
Well, and in the case of Civil War, like that was an issue that took place, 10, 20 years before the event itself, so the in-story lore there is even deeper.
Do you feel though that the communication to us, the reader, is different because we have a timeline for the Ultimate Universe as opposed to Absolute, where my only worry with, like, they will ultimately get to it like at some point, but my worry is that some point becomes meandering.
They will absolutely get to it, Marco, not ultimately.
They will absolutely get to it, sure, yeah. But I worry that the what we're being told as the reader is different, and that affects how you anticipate and your excitement for the books.
Again, though, I think if you're reading the books, like, the books are telling you, like, for example, if you read mainline DC, it's very obvious that the characters are pursuing the mystery of what happened to Darkseid. But the mystery that of what happened to Darkseid lies on the other side of DC's publishing, which is Absolute. So there is they're working towards it. it's not as obvious as, all right, in 12 months the maker's coming, but they're working towards it, and we don't know if it's going to meander because we're not there yet. Like, I trust that the creators have a point and they're getting to it, but we have to let them cook. They just haven't explicitly said in X amount of time this is what's going to occur.
You know you're meandering when you are meandering.
Right.
Like, it's just like, okay, this has gone on a little too long, and I hope it doesn't get to that point, but we'll know it when we see it.
Yeah, but no issue at the moment for Absolute if you're just reading that line has felt like it's pointing towards something. It is just its own in its own space.
And that's part
But
of the
we know it's not, is the point.
Sure.
well, even outside of that, like say you are just reading the Absolute line, and you didn't read, the All In special, or you're not reading any of the All In books. Part of the charm is that it kind of is just doing its own thing. The charm is that like I can read Absolute Wonder Woman and like get everything in those 4 issues so far. So it is having its cake and eating it too. It's like it's doing the comic booky stuff to build up whatever crossover event it's going to be in other books so these books can cook, which I think is pretty smart, honestly.
Yeah, they have really done an excellent job so far, I think. MP with the 4.99, perhaps a controversial point, but the lack of legacy heroes and families and shared mantles makes Absolute DC much more accessible for readers. I mean, I think that's hard to argue against. There's just less baggage. Less of everything is present. It's not even just mantles and families, it's less villains, less supporting characters, less everything. It's a ground floor start, right? And these characters are hot. Like, being able to say you read, issue 1 of Batman, that's a badge of honor. And there are no humans alive at this point in time, I don't think, who can say, well, there could be a few who can
Yeah,
say they read the actual literal Batman #1, right?
yeah. I mean, Cale
Um,
just threw it away. He was there. He just threw it away.
I mean, what was I supposed to do, right? Like, I had
Ate it.
mustard all over it. I was eating a hot dog at the time. The hot dog was wrapped in it.
Only 10 cents.
Yeah, come on.
But like when they were building, when they were, telling those initial stories, it's not like they were like, all right, yeah, in issue 10, Superman's coming, and in issue 20 we're gonna, like I'm sure it wasn't that meticulously planned out. They were just doing stuff. And it was cool because this character didn't exist before right now. Nowadays, Batman's been around for 100 fucking years. We know about the Joker. We know about all that. How do you do stuff with those characters in a compelling way? The answers to those questions lie in these books, and we're all seated for it because it's fresh and new, and we haven't had a chance like this at least since the New 52. And even that wasn't it because that Batman wasn't, it was the same fucking Batman. So there's an excitement that you just cannot replicate in mainline. Like, it's not there's nothing comparable to that.
Even if you did like reboots of individual characters in mainline, it wouldn't work. It's the fact that this is a whole new universe too that adds to it.
Yeah, because then you're just reworking a character. It's like, oh, they deconstructed the superhero.
Again.
Yeah, for the third time.
Atomic
Third
Hound
time.
dropping a 9.99 super chat. Thank you so much for the super chats that we've already gotten. Could you imagine DC or Marvel saying, sales are so much better than expected. Let's make these titles 199 for a month as a thank you to fans. Wake up, Hound. Time to get up now. Yeah, that sounds like the dream I was having before I got up for the show. I mean, we would love that, right? But like, there's no such thing as a free lunch, as we've all heard.
Hound, go make some coffee, please.
The Hound Cave needs you.
Yeah.
Matt Fisher with the 489. Over at DC, we know that a crossover will happen, but it could be pushed further into the future. Also, Tony and Doom know about the ticking clock. Yeah, and for DC, that's my wonder is at what point do they start to address those things? And they've been doing it, in mainline pretty frequently and kind of out the gate. But for Absolute, does that even mean that we arrive in a storytelling perspective where, like, let's say it is at that exact moment? Is it in 2 years' time is where we're entering a different timeline from when even the absolute pieces, or rather the mainline all in special happened. So there's a lot of questions there, which at the moment are exciting. But for what we've heard, where some of these creators have like 2+ years, or at least Scott has 2+ years worth of work and story, does that mean that that involves stuff leading up to All In or stuff after? And we don't know yet.
I just feel like that's prognosticating something that's so far from now. Like in 2 years, 2 years from now, if if they release one issue a month, we're not even on issue 30 of Absolute Batman. I can't if you're meandering 30 issues in to a brand new Batman, a brand new universe, then obviously you just don't know what you're doing. I'm pretty confident that they have mapped out at least a 2 year strategy that makes sense. Now, whether we like it or not is a separate matter, but I think it will. I don't meandering seems really early to be throwing that around.
Well, what I'm saying is we don't know at what point that all in the all in pieces, the dark side pieces get addressed. Is it at issue 18? Is it at issue 20? Is it at issue 30? I'm just saying that there's a possibility for any of those things to exist because we've been told that they have 2 years worth of storytelling.
We know right now is that the new free comic book day special coming out is alluding to some answers about Booster Gold. So we're getting more pieces. I don't know if we get a crossover. I know Flo Dameron said absolute for $4.99 here. Absolute Crisis coming soon. It will then be collected in Absolute Crisis. But like I don't know if we get that so quickly. It might be two free comic book days around the bend before we get like a more solidified thing like that. We also know there's more Absolute coming. I think Scott talked about 3 or 2 more books that haven't been announced yet. So this world is building, this line is building, and I don't think we can see all the pieces until the pieces are on the board.
Yeah, I don't need to. I'm happy with what we're getting, and I think it's really interesting and cool. And something we haven't, well, I guess we've seen it to some degree, but the fact that Mainline is talking to the Absolute Universe in a sense, or at least dealing with things that relate to it, is pretty it feels pretty novel. Like I'm trying to think, and I can't recall a time where we saw something like that. Obviously, we had incursions during the Secret Wars era for Hickman, but those universes were literally colliding. They weren't like this feels novel.
And prior to that, it was like Ultimate in 616 touching was against the rules.
Yeah.
They did not know they existed until what, Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Spider-Man, but again, Spider-Man was like two characters and Mysterio getting plucked out and engaging with each other, whereas like they've tied a mystery into it. Like for me, reading Challengers of the Unknown and the All In special really, and even Aquaman, the way that ended, Aquaman 1, really helped solidify the idea that like this is making mainline interesting. Somehow, Absolute is making mainline DC interesting because they have a mystery to solve that involves the other universe.
Mm.
Like the inception of that universe is directly tethered to what these characters are investigating. They have something to investigate. When was the last time that was the case?
The Justice League not throwing punches? I don't know. I do like that the concerns of the Justice League have been brought down as well. I think that's been like a readjustment to for us to get used to. The limited battles have been surrounding parts of the world, and each team addresses something around the world. So that's felt nice because then I think it also adds more separation from the big cosmic stuff that could be happening. And I feel like we haven't had that in a while as well. So like the mystery plus the readjustment of like I guess power scaling to some degree.
Yeah, I think they're doing a so far I think they're doing a tremendous job. I really do. And I gotta say it's honestly really impressive. Matt Fisher with the 199 says no legacy is what Flash and maybe Green Lantern are all about, assuming you mean the absolute versions. Yeah, that's it. Seems if Flash definitely feels like that. Green Lantern is more wait and see because I don't know if we know like we don't know enough. That's a bit of an odd duck, that book. But DC, I think, has something to say and something to address about legacy and mantles with that, and so I'm here for it for sure. Um, MP says you can't replicate that in mainline, but I do think mainline DC could be simplified to be more accessible for readers. And I thought that was interesting, but then Get Shitty responded with, no, that's what every crisis is made to do, and DC fans and creators default back to a huge expansive roster of characters. So what that interaction is referring to is the push and pull that DC typically seems to be involved with of, all right, let's build things up, let's build them up, let's build them up. Oh, they're too big, too big, too big. Shrink it down, shrink it down, shrink it down. Go back to one, then build and shrink. And that hasn't seemed to work. But like,
The
what do
rubber
you do?
banding.
Yeah.
You can't satisfy because there's going to be people who want to see just their main characters. They just want to see the Trinity or the Justice League 7 or but then there are others who are like, wait, what about these pockets of the universe that we know exist and we'd love? You're not feeding us as fans. And so it's a choice between scale or I guess the big money makers. So you at some
Both.
point, yeah, but at some point you have to address both, and that's the issue with the world. And right now, both the ultimate and the absolute lines don't have to deal with that. They don't have to deal with the expansive characters. They're building their own casts, but that doesn't. But at some point, we're going to start to see more of those people flesh out the world the same way we have for something like the Ultimates. We're seeing the world build out, and we're seeing more of those characters exist. And I'm sure somebody's going, "Wait a second, I really want to see a Luke Cage solo title. Oh wait, I really want to see the Guardians of the Galaxy do their own thing. Like, why aren't we getting those things? At some point, Marvel might decide, let's appeal to those people because that's going to be incremental sales at the potential expense of quality.
I have to imagine they know it doesn't necessarily mean that. Because for every person that says that, say from their appearance in Ultimates, what was that, 7 or whatever, I feel like, there are also people who are in the same boat as us as, keeping this small is better. Who cares what's going on out there? I'm interested in what's happening here.
But the lines
Every
are
and again, we say this often. Every title you launch is another dollar lost for, your main book.
well. It's for me that at some point the greed there is going to get to, well, we have the IP, let's put it out. And I don't think that because you put out a new book that means you necessarily have to uh pull a DC, or rather pull a like big two book. You lose out on an indie book instead. Like the sacrifice gets made at that level as opposed to another Marvel or DC title. That can vary by person, but I think more often than not, if you're buying a 5 Marvel titles and you see another one, you'll get the first issue, maybe the second issue, while maintaining the other books because you're already locked into those other books.
Marco, most people that read Marvel and DC do not read indies. They
Well,
don't have an indie book to drop.
oh, but I'm saying, like, let's say you're on issue 9 of all the other 5 books that you have, you're not going to drop an issue 9 because you really want to get this number 1.
Yeah, you are. We see it all the
That's
time. When you read our chat, we see people say shit like that constantly.
that's what
But
I
they're
do too.
willing
Yeah.
Yeah.
to give it the first issue, not maybe continue with the run.
I think it's hard to generalize how people spend their money.
Yeah.
Because if it really is like gun to my head, I got to pick up this new number one that I'm excited for, or number 10 of a book that I'm like, I'm probably gonna pick up the number one.
Shoot me. Oh,
Or that, yeah. No offense to Magic. Magic 2 comes out next week. Check it out. But like that's probably a book that would like get cut for me if it's that, or I don't know, Absolute Green Lantern. One has a little more weight to it than the other, and I think that's the same for Marvel or DC when they're deciding what gets canceled. It's the same thought process because that's probably going to be the stuff that might be on the lower end of the spectrum of things that sell. You know, like Challengers of the Unknown probably doesn't sell that great. We enjoy it here on the show, but it probably doesn't. I mean, obviously, it doesn't sell like, I don't know, Aquaman number one, same month. So something like that's probably more cuttable than, I don't know, an indie book. Yeah, I think indie books, I can't even be in the discussion here. I feel like some of these Absolute and Ultimate books are the indiest books some people are reading.
Yeah,
100%.
wow.
The-
I would say, I would even argue some of the, Aquaman and Challengers of the Unknown are more indie than the Absolute and Ultimate lines.
Like 90% of people probably heard of Hayden Sherman for the first time with Absolute Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
They're just not a name that you know about if you don't read indies.
Those people just were not awake during Scottober. They were
They
asleep.
were sleeping.
Even before that, Sabella.
Matt Fisher with 199. Why 95 watch but only 44 like? Press button. I agree with Matt Fisher. Smash that like button if you're enjoying what we're
Smash.
doing. We got 100 people hanging out with us on a Saturday morning or afternoon or evening, depending on where you are located. Thank you so much for that. If you are not subscribed, please do. We are on the road to 5K subs, and we need your help to get there. Thank you so much. We've got a couple more super chats. Title Disruption Event, my favorite name of all of your names. The first solo Green Lantern story I ever read was Green Lantern Earth 1. Now I'm obsessed. That's how important these Elseworlds and alternate universes are. Thank you, Title, for the $4.99.
In Title, if you're still around, I'm curious if reading those Elseworld and alt universe stories, does that make you want to read Mainline? Because I'm curious to see if that kind of relationship happens.
Did you continue through Elseworld, or did you start to? Was that your jump into mainline?
Nowhere else to go with Earth One. So
I guess the show, you can wait for that, I guess.
I think we can use history to answer some of that. Like Ultimate Spider-Man was a lot of people's gateway drug into not just mainline Marvel, but comics in general.
They're going to say a gateway to complaining.
I mean, if you read comics, you complain. So
Yeah,
yes,
that's true.
technically.
Hand in hand.
Also, Atomic Hound dropping $9.99 on us. Thanks, Atomic Hound. Thanks to everybody with these super chats. You guys are active this morning. How much credit do you give the showrunners in these two universes? Scott especially is putting everything he has into the Absolute line between writing and interviews. The guy is truly all in. I mean, nobody has put together a campaign like Scott Snyder did this past year since Robert Kirkman. The only creator who does it like Scott did is Kirkman. And I think that Scott, Joshua Williamson, and to a lesser degree, Jonathan Hickman deserve an assload of credit for the success of these micro lines from a showrunner standpoint, because they really have put a lot of thought into this. And I think when you have creators willing to step up and put their name behind it, it makes it easier and perhaps necessary for editors and people like that to take a step back and say, okay, we're going to let you guys cook. Because after what Scott Snyder went through with Dan Didio, he's not coming back to DC to be told no and do this instead ever again. He doesn't need to do that.
And not to mention, like, they literally let Snyder cook on this. Like, we heard about it a year in advance of its announcement, but there was rumblings about it probably a year and a half before we even got confirmation behind the scenes. So like he had time to really plan this out, plan with creators, and actually have a creative vision for this when it launched. And I think that is important as well.
I mean, some of the people we've talked to, right? Like Al, for example,
Yeah.
he's told us, yeah, he got a call one day, right? And he answered the call. So those are the things that show that this is this is done with foresight. This is done with that planning and wanting to produce the best that you possibly can because you're picking the best that exists in the industry at the moment.
And I wanted to call out this super chat from Rocky56, which a name I don't recognize. So hi, Rocky. The success is built on the specific creators chosen. They have a vision for the books they're on. Let's see if it still works when they change creators.
I don't think they will, man. I think that they're gonna they're gonna stay on these books for at least a while, more than you would, I guess, in modern day comics would expect. You know, typically we'll see artist changes within six issues. We'll see writer changes within maybe I don't know 15, 20, but seemingly this is meant for them to be able to give them the room to do what they want, and that's a really unique opportunity that I don't think this caliber of creator is gonna take lightly.
And it seems to vary, at least from what we've heard from Scott and some of the Absolute line creators. Like I think Martian Manhunter is only a 6 issue, or it's a shorter one. It's not an ongoing, but it's one of those things where like if it sells well, we'll keep doing more. Whereas Scott's like, no, I got 2 years of Batman already. So there's varying degrees on how long these visions are for individual stories. And I think we just know a lot more about the Absolute line in its inception than we do the Ultimate line. I think the Ultimate line, we never got confirmation, but there's definitely scuttlebutt on its inception, not necessarily just being a Jonathan Hickman thing. I know Donny Cates was involved, then he had his accident. So that inception seems to have been a little more different, and maybe its execution was not its inception. So we'll see how that one seems like it's kind of been gaining its footing as it's been out. So I'm kind of curious to see where that one goes. I don't think it had the foundation that the Absolute line did.
Pedro Elias Parente de Silveira. That's quite a name. What I love it. What tires me about the main lines is the number of titles, the lack of weight and consequences in the stories. There is so much that it seems to generate an emptying of meaning. Example, X-Men. Well, Pedro, you use the exact right example. Because the current line of X books do feel void of meaning. And it makes it extremely frustrating as a deep, deep lover of X-Men to enjoy those books when they feel hollow. Like, there's just a difference between, seeing this, oh, wow, guys, revolutionary concept. Wolverine, he's in the woods again.
Holy shit!
Wait, is it
He's
Canada?
traveling with them wolves. He's a Wolverine, and he's traveling with wolves. And guess what? While he's in the woods, traveling with wolves, he's going to encounter a villain he's encountered 50 times. And they're going to fight. Aren't you excited? Issue 1.
I mean, I'm kind of dumb, so sometimes that does pop me.
Okay, great. But the point is,
Nothing
they
new.
do the same shit
Yeah.
all the time.
Yep.
And it's empty of meaning. Compare that to Krakoa, which from the first page, you're like, what is going on? It had meaning. It's not about new, it's about meaning. It's about something mattering.
And I wonder if that's why, because I was looking at the list for January 2025, the stats for that, and it looks like Ultimate X-Men's the only one of these books that is not selling as well as its mainline counterpart. Looks like all the Absolute books are doing better than Absolute less versions of it, but Uncanny does better than Ultimate X-Men. And I wonder if that's because there is a perceived lack of weight and meaning on Ultimate X-Men compared to the rest of the Ultimate lines, where it feels kind of siloed. I know that's our complaint with it.
I think it's also just like so totally different.
Yeah.
And
It's not
like,
X-Men too.
yeah, for some people it's not X-Men, so like it doesn't the weight's not even necessarily that it's not there. It's just not the weight for even the characters that can be expected.
Yeah, I just think people don't think it's X-Men, and Uncanny X-Men is X-Men to people. Title disruption event with a 4.99. Thanks, dude. The first solo Green Lantern story I ever read was Green Lantern Earth
Wait, you
1.
read
Now
that
I'm
already?
obsessed. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, my bad.
No, you're
You,
good.
you just like that name. I
But
know. I know.
yeah, yeah. But Uncanny Suit with the 199 says, "Can't wait for Brubaker Cat Book Club. Fire emoji, America emoji, eagle emoji."
I was hoping you would do an eagle screech, Marco. Don't do it now.
Damn.
Do it
We'll
now.
we'll get to that uncanny suit. We'll talk about some options you might have later on.
So, what lessons can mainline learn? We've talked about a lot of why these micro lines are successful, but what's translatable? I think at first glance it's pretty easy to say, well, nothing is translatable because there are so many differences and the micro lines have a clear advantage. But I do think some things are translatable. The first thing I think I would like to see, not that this is necessarily going to happen, but I would like to see them up their spending on creators for the mainline books. I don't think that there's a good reason from a certainly not from a creative standpoint, from a financial one, I can't argue with it. Why we can't have, more books written by top tier people. We've heard the complaint consistently from top tier creators who are willing to speak about this. The pay is down. So there's more incentive for them to take a risk on themselves and do something outside of mainline than to accept lesser pay for a book that their name is going to lend a lot of value to.
The names that like jump out to me that have that are like people like Matt Fraction or Gabriel Hardman. People who don't even really work in comics that much because other industries pay more. Honestly, like Hardman, I think does a lot of concept art and storyboarding now. But like he was a great Hulk artist at the time when he was at Marvel. But because the big two just aren't putting their money where their mouth is, you lose out on creators like that.
They also just have ideas to do more elsewhere. Like we had Kieran Gillen on the show. He said the Power Fantasy came from doing some of his X-Men work, and so from there, how do you retain that talent and keep him on the book? Maybe allow a bit more creative freedom. You probably can't resurrect something like was that Icon, where you can keep the indie the indie guy within the same thing. That's probably going to be hard to do, but the allowance to push things and do things, not play it as safe, is probably going to be beneficial because you're also keeping the creator happy. If they can do cool stuff with the characters that they want to push boundaries a bit, then they're probably more inclined to want to come back to stick around. They want to see that through.
I get frustrated when it's like, man, where are these creators that I love? And the only place I can find them is indie. It's not like I love reading indie books. Almost half my list of my top 10 books right now was indie or so, and I had quite a few books. I want to see Rick Remender's, you know, core X-Men. It's never going to happen. I would love to have seen that, I want to see Matt, Tyler brought up Matt Fraction. I want to see Ed Brubaker. These people decided, hey, why am I even doing this? Why am I grinding? Why am I spending my time, my creativity on, I'm essentially on a hamster wheel here. And the pay doesn't justify it. The hamster wheel aspect is never going to go away. And I don't want it to. That's the point. It's a soap opera. It's an ever evolving story. It's never going to end. So that the problem's always going to be there. But how do you make it worth the creator's while? Well, get out of their fucking way when it's possible. I don't think it's always possible. But when it's possible, you get out of their way and you pull up the Brinks truck. That's it. They do it when they want to. I need them
Yeah,
to want to.
well, they do it when they want to, but they do it when they're trying to tie it into like something bigger. Like the initial X-Men launch, the biggest name they had on that was Gale. And from there, they started announcing everybody else, and some of these people for us didn't pop. They weren't names that really brought us forward. But if they're trying to redo the entirety of the X line, they were banking on the weight and the cachet of the X Men from the Krakoan era, which started out hot but fizzled out. So a lot of that is them trying to replicate momentum artificially, and you can't force those things. Like those things have to be organic within a line, within a story arc, to also make people care. Because it could be a situation where an otherwise unknown writer or lesser known writer does something really good and takes advantage of that momentum, and then they start to push that out with lower tier creators, quote unquote lower tier creators.
Yeah, I mean it's tough. Like I feel like it would be better, or I would prefer, I guess, if there were less X books, but the creatives involved were names that were more compelling, I guess. I'm looking right now at 2012 Marvel because I want to see how many X-Men books there are and who is working on them. So I actually don't even know what I'm about to find, but I'm looking,
I think
and I don't what?
that's during the dark years, so probably not much X-Men.
2012. Well, I mean, there's I don't know if 2012 is the dark years. The X-Men were still pretty prominent. This is the year of Avengers versus X-Men.
Oh, really? That far away? Okay.
So right away, I
All new
see
X-Men.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I see Uncanny X-Men, Wolverine and the X-Men, First X-Men, Uncanny X-Force. Those are all in the top 40. I see Wolverine number 41. In terms of sales, it's number 41. X-Men Legacy and X-Men Astonishing X-Men. So there are quite a few X-Men books on the stands at this time. We know Wolverine and the X-Men was written by Jason Aaron. Uncanny at this time would have been Gillen.
I think Gillen, yeah. That would have been like around San Francisco during Avengers vs. X-Men, yeah.
Uncanny X-Force is obviously Rick Remender. Wolverine at this time is also Jason Aaron.
I think so.
That's pretty fucking hot. I haven't gone through every book, but
All
that's
new
pretty hot.
X-Men. Brian Michael Bendis and Stuart Immonen.
Is that 2012?
2012, yeah.
That's an insane two people to put on a book. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Well, how do you grow that next line though? How do you grow that next wave of creator then?
Well, because if we're comparing it to modern day X-Men from the Ashes X-Men, it's tricky because one of the things I mentioned about the Absolute and the Ultimate lines working was that there was a foundation, there was plans. Where from the Ashes, we know for a fact if there were plans, they were very small and short and quick, because there was a hard pivot at some point. And I think that shows what not planning could do. The zero foundation from the Ashes from an editorial standpoint, other than we're going back to superhero basics, which seems to be the only MO for the line in general, shows that people aren't too invested in it from a creative standpoint because the creatives were probably given tasks. We heard about it from Stephanie Phillips of Phoenix. It's like, hey, this is where we want the book to go. You got something for that. Rather than the inverse happening, where creatives come with their own story. And I think that lack of a core foundation for a line is bad.
And you can clearly tell that it's the exact opposite in Absolute and Mainline. Or, I'm sorry, Absolute and Ultimate.
Yeah.
Not just because of the quality of the books, but because of the stories the creators have told us. And like, in what world would Mainline Marvel say to Peach Momoko, hey, come take over Uncanny X-Men and do whatever you want? 0.0 chance.
No,
right?
That's why those Demon Days books existed. You know, if they thought they could have, they would have done it, but there was no chance for it to happen. And even like your 2012 example, Sean, like that was still around the era of like architects and stuff like that, and in Marvel summits that we knew about, which I think post COVID have changed, where the foundation was there too for long-term storytelling between lines. And there's a reason why Wolverine and the X-Men and then Avengers vs. X-Men happening and all new, and then Cyclops' version of the X-Men versus Wolverines with Schism. Like, there's a reason why all of that organically flowed together was because these people had plans together. as a line, rather than just like, okay, we need these books, get creatives on it. Maybe two of them will cross over. It's foundation.
It's I want to say it's taking risks, but it's about doing things that I forget who it was. Maybe it was Rocky earlier. Somebody super chatted us and said, the emptying of meaning, and it's so true. Like Wolverine and the X-Men, and all that stuff at the time had a point. Like I wasn't that big a fan of Wolverine and the X-Men, but it had a point. It had a point, and that's why it resonated with people. There was a reason for that book to exist that was clear throughout the content of it. It spoke to the rest of the X line, and it had creators who clearly had something to say. That's the key factor. That's the key factor.
And even from like a line standpoint too, like it had the younger characters in it. It from a line, if you compare that to the other X-Men books, thematically it was different, as opposed to this kind of like homogenous kind of feeling that a lot of these X-Men books have right now. Even though they are wildly different, like Storm, what's happening in Storm is wildly different than what's happening in, I don't know, Dazzler. But it still feels as a line kind of samey because it's being, I guess, presented similarly.
How trying to figure out how to phrase this. How related to the movies do you think this is?
100%, at least for the X-Men, if we're talking about it.
Especially right now.
Yeah. Right now,
Like
we just started getting casting rumors, so we know the gears are turning in the mutant world.
Wait, are you saying, Cale, that like the reason that we're in this like lower period is because they're making room for when they need to synergize?
I think that is the end trail of where my head is. Because I'm thinking, we were talking about 2012, and if you compare the X-Men to the absolute and ultimate lines that we're talking about, the X-Men of 2012, they were nowhere near the MCU, right? So there was no
Sure.
chance that Marvel was gonna spit shine their image, right? But the absolute and ultimate lines are also taking big swings at the moment. And I guess I'm just wondering, like, is there a lack of homogenization that is based around, the company, the parent companies needing to present a better looking product?
I think I think you're onto something. But I don't think it's as easy to tell with DC at this time because
Yeah.
that universe is still in its infancy. So we don't really know what that looks like. With Marvel though, like all these superhero X-Men books, it feels like this is just preparation to have trades out for when the movies are out. Just so
Yeah.
there's something on a Barnes and Noble bookshelf, and it really is just grasping for the smallest runoff from the MCU. But I still think they're doing it.
But what's frustrating to me about that is that you don't have to what evidence is there that this strategy even works? Half the time, more than half the time, when we've got a movie coming out, they kill these fuckers.
Yeah.
Batman RIP came out.
Yep.
That was the big thing that was happening when The Dark Knight came out. When Doctor Strange, the movie came out, Doctor Strange was dead. This is a very, very common thing that Marvel and DC do.
Yep.
So the fact that they're going so hard with the X-Men to um, build them up and prop them up for their big screen debut, we've never seen this before. To this degree, we've never seen it before. And on top of that, I don't see a reason why you can't say, like, Phoenix, for example. They say to Stephanie Phillips, we want, your Phoenix pitch. We're doing a Phoenix book. She's got to be in space. She's got to be this and that. What's your pitch? Stephanie Phillips comes in and does, whatever she's doing, whether you like it or not. There's nothing really that different about that from the way that Kelly Thompson was approached to do Absolute Wonder Woman, other than the fact that that one's starting from scratch. The problem is that Phoenix just feels like it's built upon nothing. It's just like, hey, I'm Jean Grey. I've had a lot of adventures with the X-Men, but now I'm on my own. Me and my buddy the Phoenix. Follow our adventures in space as we encounter monsters, aliens, and creatures you can't even wrap your head around. See you later. That's what it feels like.
Slap that on a trailer.
There's just nothing there. What, as a Jean Grey fan, as a lover of Jean Grey, is this gonna be in my collection that I go back to and sing the praises of? No, it's just there.
And I think to that point, if you're just putting out volume so that you can have things ready, when somebody picks that up and goes, "Wow, I love this movie. I love these characters, etc., etc." Let me go to the source material. Oh, it was all right. I guess I'll stick to the movies.
Well, the thing is, I think X-Men are also a very specific beast because look at all the titles of books that Sean read off in 2012. They're just team books, really, outside of Wolverine. So it's
Yeah.
extra hard for a fan to really know where to look because it's going to be like, hey, you want Uncanny X-Men? You want X Factor? It's like, all right, who's on the team at the time? I don't know. So I think that's why they're looking for more character-based stuff so the IP is more recognizable.
Well, but remember too, when Hickman started the Avengers, all of the Avengers had movie accurate costumes.
Sure. Yeah. That was our first hint, really. I think maybe Bendis' Avengers Assemble, but right around then.
Yeah.
But it was the only carryover. And even that was annoying as fuck.
Yeah.
And also inconsistent at the time, too.
Yep.
But it was the only thing that was like, all right, yeah, they have to do this for the marketability or whatever. But the content of the books felt unaffected. Whereas the X line right now, I pretty much like all the creators that they have on those books. But it feels milquetoast. Even Gail Simone's book, which I love the most, Uncanny, it just doesn't feel like there's something under it. There's no foundation for the story that she's telling. What is the theme of it separate from we're the X-Men, we're a found family. That's the theme of every X book. What else are you doing?
The only one driving that is exceptional at the moment, where it's found family. You're right. You're kind of growing a next generation. But that is not the biggest book. It's not a marquee title, and you need that kind of energy on a marquee title. You need to be able to build up story on a marquee title. I think the biggest lesson that they can learn from the Ultimate line, in my mind, is isolate them again. Not stick them on an island necessarily, but although Krakoa, fucking rad, but definitely keep them separate from the Marvel universe at the moment, so that they can build their own world out in a more unified way, and um, in that process, rotate in artists and creators who have those pitches, who aren't given a task, but are going, hey, I have a really cool story for this arc of whatever, and maybe that's the answer is give them give the people who are hungry for it the opportunity to write for it rather than rely on the volume of it. Call the line, give people time to be able to produce the quality book that you need, and then decide whether or not it makes sense to expand from there.
I think, yeah, I mean, I think with X-Men, we would all agree that they should cut the line down. It's too many books, and it feels really spread out. But also, like I keep going back to the idea of, putting bigger name creators on the books, but it's not even necessarily that. This X line, there's just something about it where every book feels like it's milk toast. It's not even about who's doing the stories. Gail Simone is one of my favorite writers. Eve Ewing is doing a great job, I think. Jeffrey Thorne, I think, is doing a great job. but there's just something about these books that just feels like there's nothing under the hood. And that's top down because it's consistent. Because it's every one of them, it has to
Mm,
be top down.
at an
And
editorial level.
Yeah.
it's not like an under the hood thing. It feels like they put on the entire body of a car with no interior, just to look like a car. Oh, it looks like a line, but underneath it, there's maybe a folding chair.
No engine.
Exactly, yeah, because it didn't have time for them to build the whole car.
Get Shitty says there's been plenty of placeholder runs throughout comics, and I completely agree with that. But the problem is that they all feel like they're placeholder runs. And to me, every X book feels like a placeholder. The entire From the Ashes feels like placeholder.
It feels like a placeholder line, yeah. Especially because of the MCU behind it all, where it feels like we're just biding time.
There was a comment somewhere. I'm having trouble finding it again, but it mentioned that there's some editorial responsibility. Like they need to swap out the editors, or at the very least the idea of short form, short term thinking for longer term thinking. I think that's how you build a foundation is you point an end goal that is not, a couple issues down the road, but rather that is a couple years out in our timeline so that way we can have stake, we can build those stakes so that way you have a framework that is easier to work around than something as a just get to this point.
And just to tie this back to Ultimate and Absolute here is that I think that editorial aspect of it too is tricky because as far as like take Absolute for example, it's creatively driven. Snyder kind of has, he has the whiteboard with all of the threads, connecting to each other supposedly. Um, so that's kind of instead of being editorially driven, it is creatively driven with editors to fix the individual issues and look over them and make sure for consistencies and all that. Whereas something like the X-Men line is editorially driven, it's business driven, it's Marvel corporately driven, and then the books suffer from that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think to me, when it comes to editorial, and I don't, I feel like a lot of times when people talk about nobody here, but when people talk about editorial, talk about it like they know everything about editorial, and I definitely don't. But I feel like when you have a group editor who's coming into things wanting to work collectively, to figure out, okay, how can we make this line the best and the most cohesive that it can be with everybody throwing their ideas in there and then plotting out a course for a year, a couple of years that makes creative sense. We can see that pan out. And I think, the reason why we're focusing on Marvel at this moment is because, quite frankly, there's not a lot to critique with mainline DC right now.
Yo,
They,
where,
They
dude?
made their changes. They made the changes that people
Yes.
were asking for years. October 2024 was a turning point for DC.
every complaint that I have with mainline Marvel, I pretty much don't have with mainline DC.
Or I did a year or two ago.
Sure.
Well, of course, but like, yeah, DC right now they have their shit together in a way that Marvel just doesn't. There is no X line equivalent at DC Comics. So really what I need to see is whether it's Spider-Man, whether it's X-Men, whatever it is, there needs to be goals. There needs to be a through line. There needs to be a point to this. I'm in the process, which I've been in for a while, of trying to drop books. And if you listen to Pals Polls, apparently I'm unsuccessful at that. But I'm not interested in anymore, as Get Shitty put it earlier, these like placeholder runs. I've been reading comics too long to just read an arc or a run that's like, oh, this is just another run on Wolverine. Like, nah, man, I've done it.
How hmm, how long, I guess in your case, like how long will that last? Like, so with Wolverine, you're not interested in just another Wolverine run. How long will it be until you pick up another Wolverine book before you can say, I guess I'm done with Wolverine? I don't know.
For me, it's always they're always a creative team away. Like I thought I was done with Wolverine, and then in the Krakoan era, I loved what Benjamin Percy did.
Great book.
I thought that run was awesome, and it had themes to it, and it had a reason to exist. And by the way, a lot of that was buoyed by the fact that they were on Krakoa. The Krakoa sandbox made it so that any of those books could feel fresh and new because they were in a new environment, and it's tough to replicate that concept too frequently.
And also, Krakoa has built in themes and things for the characters to react to.
Krakoa had a foundation. And you can argue the other extreme happened during Krakoa, where the creatives maybe had a little too much control, which then led to like that period where nobody really wanted to leave the current status quo because they were having fun, and then Hickman leaving. So Krakoa, there's a deep dive there that we lived through. Actually, we don't even need to do a deep dive. But yeah, it's that's definitely a specific use case.
Yeah. Hey, thank you to everybody who is tuned in right now. Keep hitting that like button. I see the likes are higher. I'm glad for that. I know we can do even better. We are going to be doing a giveaway a little bit later for the Power Fantasy Volume 1. We want to get that in your hands. So later on in the show, we will be doing that. So if you want a copy of the Power Fantasy Volume 1, the first trade of that in physical, make sure you stick around. We will be sharing details and everything else later on in the show. For now, I do want to quickly say thank you to some of our patrons. Patreon.com/thecomics is the best way to support the show. We appreciate everybody who does that, so we take time to thank them. We are about to get right back into the conversation, but I do want to say a special shout out to Pals vs. Legends, Thunderstruck Rebecca Alejandro, the Hound of Justice, Atomic Hound, Starcross Catherine Stars, the Red Spiral, Spiral Storm, Adam and Bernie the Best Boy, the Spear of Judgment, Jay's Jumble, Matthew Malice Price. And I also want to thank Pals vs. members, the Night Stalker, Harris Dajinski, Brian Demolish Del Pozo, Kefis the Incorruptible, Momentum Mike Elliott, Dan the Truth Trudeau, Marley Manus Storm, Slow Flow Dameron, Christian Uncaged, Always Laughing, The Spear of Justice, Izzy's Issues, The Great Destroyer, Hyper Viper 89, Robert, Runback, Cashaback, Pete the Dreamweaver Collins, James, Just Jamming Jones, Paul, Powerhouse Smith, Andrew the Galaxian Smith, Neon Knight the Cosmic Avenger, Matthew the Shade Cosmo, BJ Kicks, and the Living Blade, Boss Rendir. Thank you all so much. If you didn't hear your name, that's because we will be getting to you all shortly, including a new origin to come later on in the show. So, we've established that there needs to be a little more of a plan going forward for these lines. DC clearly has their shit together, and I think a part of why it works is because the plan forward for mainline and absolute is the same plan. So they're both driving to the same place. Ultimate Marvel has a feeling of, it's driven, it's got a place it's going, a clear vision. Whereas mainline Marvel feels I mean, we've got Doom. We've got the Doom stuff going on. So I can't say there's not something happening there. There is. And while I can't say that it feels like we've been building it to it for a long time, we do have to give them grace and say they certainly have been building to it since Blood Hunt. The end of Blood Hunt signaled, the arrival of Doom and him and rising to power and everything like that. So okay, that's fair. Fair play. And we're seeing some of the universe react to that. The examples that I'm personally aware of are Amazing Spider-Man and the Eight Deaths and that's inspired by Doctor Doom. Of course, the Fantastic Four book is inspired by Doom. What's going on with Doom right now, and then Doom Academy is impending, and that's if you remember Strange Academy, they're doing a twist on that.
Nice.
So I like all that. I can't critique that. I think all of that is great. However, for some reason with Marvel, everything still feels segregated. I kind of want to see the same way that the Justice League #1 and what's been going on there was like everybody together reacting to what happened with Darkseid. I want to see the universe of Marvel get smaller, more intimate.
We need to see Doom hunting all of the superheroes because they're illegal in the magic world he's created or some shit.
Sean wants to see some shrinkage
Oh, what? Whoa.
of the line of the universe. Okay, go on.
He was in the pool.
uh, that would help with the connectivity, but does kind of like the stink of those other books affect maybe better books? Like, because you start to cross over with the line gets smaller, you only have so many books to pick from, and let's say we're not a group of people isn't enjoying what's going on with the X-Men, but they're tied into stuff that's happening to the Avengers. The only place to read the continuation of those stories is in those books that then have to cross over.
When I
Um,
said make the line smaller, I didn't mean cut books. I meant like, make it feel more
Make the
intimate.
world
Yeah.
smaller.
Yeah. Like how in DC right now, we've seen pretty much everybody react to what is going on with Darkseid. I would like to see that replicated at Marvel. Not necessarily if they need to cut comics.
well, I guess I meant it more so like, is it going to interrupt the books that we currently have?
Not if
Yeah,
they plan for
absolutely.
it.
Dude, Doom's in charge. Like, it's
That,
huge.
that warrants interruption.
And if we don't like the books already and they become necessities to read the events, does that affect the overall quality of the event?
They don't need to be necessities to read the events. They can
Sure.
still like the Civil War, World War Hulk. Actually, great era to think about. A lot of those books tied into, they were ongoings. They might have had one issue that that was like, all right, how are these characters reacting to Hulk destroying everything? And some of them really worked. Some of them didn't, and they suffered. And then some were actually really good. So it is kind of hit or miss. You're not going to hit all the time with stuff like that, but it at least made the world feel interconnected in a way that I think we lost.
Yeah, I don't think it will never have a line of comics that's 100%, oh, we love every single book. And, there's shit like that. But like Civil War, okay, this big thing happens. We need characters to react. Take She-Hulk. How does She-Hulk, what is her role in the Civil War? She-Hulk was not a top 10 or maybe even top 20 character at Marvel during Civil War, but they sure as shit did give her the role of the lawyer of penance. And by the way, that made me buy She-Hulk when I never, ever considered her before.
Yeah,
That can
absolutely.
be the advantage of doing things like that. It gave a character a role, which made people who don't read her suddenly care because she's orbiting around the main topic of Marvel at that time. Matt Fisher with 499 says, wasn't reading Marvel during Age of Apocalypse, did anybody mention the X-Men not being around, or for everybody else, it was like a blip and they were back? I wasn't around either.
I wasn't. Yeah, still probably in grade school.
Yeah, somebody else might have to answer that one.
I do
Thank
like
you for the 499 though.
I don't even know if our old heads would know about that. They don't talk about X-Men that way.
I do like Steve Canaris' comment here. Except Daredevil Island, leave Murdoch out of all of it. I'm kind of with you on that one.
Well, of course. Yeah.
Gore Vidal says, with the exception of Wolverine, Ultimates is being outsold by absolute titles. Pull lists are much larger for DC Absolutes, unusual for a Marvel heavy customer base. Well, again, when was the last time, we had an opportunity for a brand new Batman? Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman as characters, maybe not include Wonder Woman, but I think I would even include Wonder Woman, are bigger than the characters that the Ultimate line launched with outside of Spider-Man and Wolverine. Ultimate Spider-Man was the best-selling comic of 2024, and you just said Wolverine is the outlier. So I don't think that's a surprise. That doesn't surprise me. But Marvel is trouncing DC everywhere else just like they always do.
I asked a follow up to that. I was curious if he's seen a shift at that location to at least see an increase in DC books. Directional, but does that mean that people are opting in more often to those as well?
Get Shitty says more connectivity can conceptually lead to less individual creative freedom. It's a struggle to find and maintain balance at the level of mainline. And I don't envy them. I don't envy the editors. I don't envy the creators. I don't envy any of them. I mean, I envy the creators. I want to be one. But it's a tough job. It is a tough job. But it's a doable job. And they can do that job. I we've heard the complaints of creators who have had to work during events and how frustrating and disruptive it can be. We definitely have heard that. I think some of that is okay, but it can go too far. It depends on the players involved, and that's always going to be the case, but that doesn't change what works when it works. And I think that interconnectivity is why we read big two comics at the clip that we do.
Hound says, here's what I recall in regards to the Age of Apocalypse question from Matt Fisher. Hound says, here's what I recall. At the time, Marvel was broken along editorial lines, and the titles didn't really reference one another for a while, so their absence wasn't really discussed.
It really wasn't until Heroes Were Born that things started referencing each other, or then into Marvel Knights and then Bendis' era.
That's a weird era in general. That's the Marvel garage sale era where they were selling the fucking furniture in the building
Yeah.
to stay afloat. Jeez.
All you
Cole
see are
says,
long boxes.
I think the Absolute line plus Superman Gunverse is going to create a lot of new DC fans over the years. Hopefully. Hopefully.
You said Gunverse. I'm like, when did Superman start carrying guns? Did I skip an issue of Absolute?
Backed by Smith and Wesson.
Oh God. Imagine
That's Marvel, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I would love for that to be the case. I hope that DC has a big year. I hope Marvel has a big year. I hope that Fantastic Four puts people's butts in seats. I'm the biggest thing I'm happy for Marvel wise this year is Marvel Rivals. Because Marvel Rivals has put Marvel on the map for so many people, characters they don't care about. There is not a comic that exists that is doing better for the Fantastic Four leading into that movie than Marvel Rivals and them putting those characters in that video game. Guaranteed.
And the friggin' storytelling that's actually in the game is great. The mutants in Marvel Rivals, guess where they are dealing with right now? That's all Krakoa stuff. So if you miss Krakoa, read the lore in Marvel Rivals, because that's all that is, and there's probably a map coming. But yeah, I think that's been a great social media-wise, great for Marvel. Better than what any comic has done recently.
Is there any connectivity between that and the app?
Loose. There is a crossover for Marvel Unlimited and Marvel Rivals. Where like if you buy Marvel Unlimited, you get like a spray in Marvel Rivals. The other direction being if there's a new skin in Marvel Rivals, it usually tells you what comic it's from. It'd be great if there was a quick hyperlink that you could open into the Marvel Unlimited app, but so far not that direct.
Yeah, like on the load page. Hey, click out here. This is,
if you want to see where this Invisible Woman and Malice skin came from, let's bring it to Fantastic Four comics that people are confused about. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Or even just got like, hey, go, put in your comic shop locator or something. Read more.
Uncanny Suit 97 says, read the Marvel Rivals lore. If that's on a signed mainline Marvel is messed up, I don't know what is. Yeah, I'm reading stuff without pictures.
Matt Fisher with the 199 says Superman's arms are named Smith and Wesson.
That's funny.
Just imagining Henry Cavill like reloading his fists like in a Mission Impossible.
If there was an ultimate or an absolute line in the early 2000s by Mark Miller, that's exactly what it would have been.
The laser vision would just be bullets, I think.
Jesus.
Explosions.
Right. Yes.
Right to bear arms.
Yeah.
Cole says we need a new DC Injustice game. See, I think why Marvel Rivals works is because, in terms of dragging people or drawing people to the comics and those characters, is because they're faithful interpretations. Injustice, I don't want to say does damage. That feels maybe like a little too far, but I think it creates an idea in people's heads of what those characters are like that's not real. Like the amount of times I've had to talk to people who tell me about how when Batman or when Superman went bad and he killed the Joker and him and Batman at war, and I'm like, dude, that fucking video game is not that's not Superman.
Yeah, it builds a like an idea separate from because it's a separate universe, right? And there isn't that understanding. But I've heard the comics are awesome. I have dabbled only in a little bit that Tom Taylor stuff, right?
They get awesome once you're allowed to live in that world for a bit. I think the
Okay.
inception of it was a little messy, especially art wise. There's some great reaction image fodder in those early couple digital issues.
Like I would imagine that the Injustice video game would drive sales for the Injustice comic book. But I would have a tougher time believing that like it bolstered sales of mainline, whereas I could see Marvel Rivals theoretically doing that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, DC did have a MMO.
One thing I kind of want to call out, I think it was let's see, who was it earlier that said that? Okay, it was Tevye Smolka said, personally, I think the editorial at Marvel needs a reality check and wake up. I think that's too surface level of an understanding of editorial. There's a difference between editorial and editing as well that I think people need to realize. Editors will go through books to make sure there's consistency and spell check and all that as well. But you got to keep in mind that editorial, especially when you come to like group editors and stuff, they work for the editor in chief, who then works for chief creative for Marvel at that point. So a lot of that is business driven, and that's not going to change. I think making room for more of a creative slant and basis for a lot of the storytelling could change. But I don't think it's just simply just saying, oh, it was the editor's fault. That doesn't solve anything.
If you take away, let's say, Nick Lowe from Spider-Man, from being the Spider-Man editor, because everybody hates Nick Lowe. See, look, I'm saying that, and Tevye immediately
Literally.
said, yeah,
Wow.
because I know the thought process. He says, especially with Nick Lowe, needs a reality check. Everybody hates Nick Lowe. If you remove Nick Lowe from the editorial position on Spider-Man, I guarantee you, nothing will change. Spider-Man is not going to get married to Mary Jane. They're not going to have a kid named May. None of that's going to happen because that is the position of Marvel as a company overall about that title that is not fixable until Marvel has a change of heart and the editor will never matter.
All Nick Lowe really gets to do is decide, maybe find the right people for the job, but the job is still not changing.
Yeah. Keely Chow says, "Hey everybody, what's going on? Injustice and Injustice 2 are great fighting video games." Well, hello, Keely. Thanks for joining us. I agree with you. As video games, I think Injustice and Injustice 2 are awesome. They're very fun. But just from a storytelling standpoint, I feel like they don't serve those characters very well. Because at the very least, they're not accurate reflections of them. The stories you can enjoy and stuff like that, but I just feel like, there's not a lot of correlation between that Superman and the one you're going to find in the books.
Especially like when they add DLC, it's like, oh, Hellboy is in this, except not in the books.
Or Teenage Mutant Ninja
Donatello.
Turtles.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Oh,
Yeah,
dude, they
yeah.
had some good DLC in that Injustice too, man.
Really?
Last Young Renegade says there was an interview on Comic Pop Returns with a former Marvel editor who said they were even thinking of breaking up Peter and MJ in the 90s. Yes. And it's we know that. And when I say we, I mean the people that are plugged in. Everybody says that Marvel and that they blame Quesada. Oh, Joe Quesada wanted that because Joe Quesada got divorced. No, dude. The mentality that Joe and Marvel had in the 2000s, in the 90s, is the same reason why Will Smith ended up breaking up with Lisa at the end of season 4 or season 5 of The Fresh Prince. That's why. It's the same reason why Buffy and Angel don't end up together. It's the same reason as XYZ. It's a tale as old as time. The will they, won't they of a story, if it's baked into that story, is probably never going to change until the story is over because it's the point of the story. A big aspect of Spider-Man's story is him finding love and happiness. It's been there since almost day one, all his dating and exploits. They want that there. It's that simple. And they've wanted it ever since he got married. That's it.
Kyle just said, I just finished reading all the Spider-Man from 1987 to 2000. Jeez, buddy. And when I tell you, nothing irritated me more than Peter and MJ's marriage.
Because it ended that narrative. It ended that. Yes, you could tell those stories
the drama
afterwards. Yeah, the drama. You can always tell stories afterwards, but that is not what's baked into the character. It must persist. Same way Archie persists. It has to be that.
Even in JMS's run, when they get back together after a separation, Peter dies. He becomes an Avenger and he moves in with the Avengers, and then Aunt May gets shot, and then one more day. Like, very little of that has actual like Spider-Man married, a Spider-Man marriage drama.
Even in current Ultimate Spider-Man, that was the whole basis of it, and we didn't get that for 4 issues.
It doesn't factor into the comics. I've read all those fucking Spider-Man comics mainline when they were married. That shit was irrelevant. I remember Mary Jane left Peter Parker for a time. She picked up smoking and she was all sad and shit. Like you can put the blame on any person you want to put the blame on, but the fact is that if you actually read the books and if you actually know the history, you know that that marriage was not it didn't work from a storytelling standpoint. It doesn't matter who was writing it. It's not the writer's fault. It's not the editor's fault. It's just how it is.
It's the reader's fault for having a reader marry Sue fantasy to want to marry Mary Jane themselves.
Well, I think we all want that.
No, we all want it, but we can't get it. That's the cookie.
Hey, speak for yourself. But my narrative's ended. Oh no!
Can't use that drama.
I mean, my narrative had a reboot, so.
Yeah, same. Matt Fisher at the 499 says, the only will they, won't they that evolved was Clark and Lois.
They even fucked that up.
And that is because, to my understanding of Superman, Lois has been there from the beginning.
Yep.
And just like for Reed Richards and Sue Storm, they've been there from the beginning. What a surprise that the couples that have been together since the inception of the characters stay together. That is how it works because they were built to be that way. That's why the natural progression for Superman is to have a child because he started with Lois. That's why.
Not a bachelor, you're saying.
Right. The point of Superman is not to be a bachelor. It just like James Bond. How different would the James Bond movies be if James Bond married one of the Bond girls? They're not doing that. That's a part of the story.
I'm just imagining
they tried to do that and it killed James Bond. Spoilers.
I didn't even know that, Cale. I have no idea about James Bond. I just know because the conception of characters works like that. That's just storytelling.
I'm trying to imagine early Superman as a bachelor, and it's just him running on telephone wires from strip club to strip club.
Anne Ruiz said, then why does Eddie Brock have a child? Because nobody gives a fuck about Eddie Brock. You know, he's not like a, you know.
They're desperate to get him to evolve.
Yeah, they want to get him over.
Mark Bouchard has entered the chat.
I love Eddie Brock, something fierce, but just like as a, you know, as a mainline anchor character, he's not that dude. You can do. There's a lot more malleability there. Yeah. So I don't know. I think that this conversation has definitely moved pretty far away from the original intent, but the point that I think we were kind of driving to is that creative freedom is great, but we have to feel like we're reading a shared universe, a lived-in world where these characters interact and engage with each other. Um, and mainline, at least at Marvel, has sort of lost that. And I think they have to try to get it back. The last point that oh, Tyler, go ahead.
And I was going to say this shit ebbs and flows. Eventually DC will be in a rut again, and Marvel will be hot. That's just the nature of comics. There are things that I think they will learn, and this will be addressed eventually. And then we might have this discussion on episode 834. So as a reader, if you are exasperated or let down, hunker down. It'll be fixed.
Lock in.
Yeah, lock in. That's exactly what you should do. Lock in and learn how to be a comic fan.
Cry.
Well, I think that's absolutely true because I've been through periods like this is probably the happiest I've been reading comics that I can recall. But I've definitely had periods where I wasn't very happy reading comics, where I thought the quality was down or I just wasn't enjoying the books that I was buying. And I can tell you that every time it's been bad, it's also gotten good.
Yeah, it's it's creativity. It goes up, it goes down.
Yeah.
Matt Fisher with the 499 says he did marry someone in 1969. Below Fed ended that quickly, and I'm assuming you're talking about Superman.
I think he's talking about
007.
James Bond.
Yeah, it's 007.
Oh, gotcha. Well then.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate you. Revolutionary Dragon says that the problem people see if everyone else can evolve except Peter, it's even more noticeable. There's a quote that I absolutely adore. I have never deleted it. I keep it open in a tab on one of my notes pages because it's a brilliant quote, and it's from Dan Didio. I just found it. He said, "Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman are Bart Simpson. The rest of the DCU is Harry Potter." I keep that quote in my mind, and I think about that all the time when it relates to these characters. Spider-Man is Bart Simpson. There is a reason why he has to be that way. That reason is because if he wasn't, if Spider-Man was Harry Potter, Spider-Man's first comic was published in what, 1963?
3?
Cale says 3. So 1963. It is 2025. That means that there have been over 60 years of Spider-Man stories. If Spider-Man was Harry Potter, this motherfucker would be in his wheelchair at the old age home trying to thwip old ladies over to him to sit in his lap. You know what I'm saying? He'd be ancient. So they cannot do that with Spider-Man.
Honestly,
There's only so much progression that they can do.
Is there any other Bart Simpson in the Marvel Universe you feel? Does Daredevil count?
No, Daredevil can grow. He has. Things have happened to him. Casts have changed. Status quos have changed. Maybe Tony. At this point, I think at a point he was Harry Potter, but I think he's turned into a Bart Simpson because he's such a. When I say Tony, I mean Tony Stark, because Iron Man is such a constant now in the public eye.
Keep in mind that I think all comic book characters are Bart Simpson to some degree. I just think the degrees to which they are that are lesser. Like in Tyler's example of Tony Stark, I would say that Tony Stark has changed, but it's change that takes place over a long period of time. Like the Tony Stark of the Civil War era, for example, is not the same one as 10 years prior to that, and isn't the exact same one as now, but the change is a lot more gradual. Nightwing grew up and he became a man and he started as a boy, but how long did the process take? I literally don't know the answer. Maybe Cale can enlighten us, but certainly Nightwing has been around. It probably took him about 20 years, if I had to guess, maybe more, to become a man from a teenager. Is that fair to say?
Probably like 50.
There you go. There you go.
Have we been around Nightwing longer than Robin was Dick Grayson?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
80s, right? Nightwing is 80s. So
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
probably 40 versus
50.
30, 20 years.
Yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, that's the way. And Nightwing is the most Harry Potter character that anybody brings up. People always say Nightwing is that guy that we got to see grow up from a kid and all that shit. And it took that man 40 years to age about 5.
You could push Wally West to that too, to that step even one step further
sure.
because he's got kids.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Matt Fisher with the 499. Daredevil has not changed. He's a depressed ninja lawyer forever. And that's where we want him. That's where he deserves to be.
The problem with Harry Potter and characters in Marvel is because of the sliding time scale. Once you do that, it kind of pokes holes in the whole universe.
Yeah, and you see it like you can see it with children, like child characters at times. Damien doesn't make any fucking sense. If he grows up too fast, it calls into question everybody else around him. But that's the suspension of disbelief that you sort of have to be capable of when it comes to comics, which is why I just try not to think about that stuff too much.
Damien, just age him up. They have a precedent.
Yeah, put him in a volcano somewhere for a couple years. Yeah,
it's easy.
The amount of comments we get that
that's-
say shit like that, just age him up. What's the big deal? What the fuck do you mean the big deal is? Just last week I read him. He was 12. Now he's 17. How does that work? At least in television, they give you a season away from these motherfuckers.
Time has passed. We missed 2 super chats. Sorry about that. Jay Sage, the £4.99. I think these lines work for the same reason tropes do. You can take them in new directions while exploring familiar themes. Happy Saturday, guys, and happy Saturday to you. Thank you so much. And I think you're right. Yeah, it's giving us familiarity and a basis, but iterating on that basis in ways that are exciting. And because it's exciting, they're new.
Agreed. Thank you, Jay. Good to see you. Matt Fisher with the 199. Time to sidetrack Sean. Look over there. Where?
I left that one for you.
Thank you. Jalen Thames with their first super chat on the live stream and the first time I'm seeing a comment from you, Jalen. Thank you so much. Donna Troy and Tempest have had their children in the DCU. I think this can offer development to the Teen Titans. Their uniqueness in the 80s is commonplace now.
it's commonplace now, but I feel like they've plateaued. So, like, yes, they had their era of growing, but they also plateau at a certain point. And that's what Titans has to do. They just have to keep adding new, younger members.
Well, but also I think that the difference between Wonder Girl and Tempest versus Nightwing and Wally is Wonder Woman and Aquaman were never really gone, or Wonder Girl and Aquaman never really took the sidekicks were never elevated the way Nightwing and the Flash were.
The vacuum for them to slot into that spot never existed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Joseph Wolf says, well, yeah, the idea that characters can't really change like that is one of the biggest issues with comics that no other medium has. But see, that's not true, though. That isn't true. We have examples of other forms of storytelling where we do see this. Soap operas are like that. Wrestling is like that, like televised weekly episodic wrestling. It's episodic storytelling, and we've seen it historically. There are plenty of examples like that. We talked about James Bond earlier. James Bond basically snaps back to 1 at the end of the movie you just watched. And so you do with minimal changes here and there. You do see this across other forms of storytelling. It's just that the big 2 are soap operas. The big 2 is The Simpsons. You have to think about it that way. Comics is the medium. The storytelling device that the big 2 use is something you see in other places. But if you don't like that, then you don't like big 2 stories because that's what they are.
The only thing stopping a soap opera or wrestling from doing exactly what comics does is that people actually age in real life.
And even then,
They recast.
yeah, soap operas will recast.
How many times does a luchador have a new guy under the mask?
Shit.
CW Gordon in response to that says literally Bart Simpson.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like that's the whole conversation we're having.
And you know what? You can tell that they're getting toward the end of like this cycle because the lady that's doing Bart Simpson's voice is like actively like having trouble doing it.
Oh wow.
Damn.
You can hear it.
There's
Like-
there's a reason why there's a lot less Mr. Burns. It's because the voice actor is getting old
Yeah.
and can't do it anymore.
Yo, AI?
Fuck you.
That's disgusting. Jesus. Unreal. So yeah, guys.
Marco, I'm gonna kill you. God.
I don't even know if you were trolling at that point either. And I sincerely hope you were.
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not.
I feel like that's where everybody's going with creative stuff now. Someone's gonna, if you need to maintain something, slap an AI on it.
I'm
And
coming to your house.
everyone, put on your Luigi hats, please.
Oh, the chat's gonna fucking drag me.
Aaron Ruiz says, "Don't put that thought on me. Cody Rhodes could have not finished his story if he was in comics, dude. But so check it out though, right? Because Cody Rhodes won the title. How interesting is Cody Rhodes right now?
Yep. CM Punk brought it up too during that. Sorry, Marco and Cale. A superhero that has one goal actually completes that goal. What happens when his story is done?
Yep.
It stagnates.
Yep, exactly. James says, but I think that stagnation is what drives people away from the big two as we get older. Maybe.
And then I'd argue that's just you growing up and changing your tastes. Like,
Right.
maybe not an issue with the medium, but just your taste, which is fine.
To me, that comes down to people wanting it their way. The people who say Spider-Man should have aged in real time or close to real time and grew up with them are selfish. You're selfish. If the people who felt like you felt that way when Spider-Man was first published, he'd be in a rocking chair right now, and none of us would have gotten to experience Spider-Man as a youthful person in comics while they were coming out alongside our growing up. You cannot have that thought process. Maybe for you, the time is there. It's now to move on from Spider-Man or whomever it is. But just because you feel that way does not reflect a problem with the storytelling device. It's a you thing.
And I'd argue, to bring it back to the main topic, Absolute and Ultimate are their responses to that of Marvel and DC trying to have their cake and eat it too. Because that stuff's never going to happen in mainline Spider-Man. Doesn't matter how much you want it. But when they can do this little side project, they can give you that if need be. And it seems like they are, and it seems like it's working for them. So maybe this is the solution. It's not the solution most fans, have been begging for decades. But it's probably the closest you're going to get.
Ricky B says, "Why are you broadcasting at the same time as Thinking Critical? Now I have to follow 2 live streams about comics at the same time." Well,
We're over here thinking critically. What are you talking about?
One headphone in each ear. Figure it out, buddy. Skill issue.
There you
Lock
go.
in.
Lock in, dude. That's it. You got it.
Ricky, I'll simply say that I appreciate that we're in contention for your time. Thank you for that. MP says the Comics Pals should invite Sal from Comic Pop to talk about the Peter MJ marriage. I think that would be a great discussion.
I think that would be great. I don't envy Sean's fingers from all the comments he'd have to reply to.
Yeah, like I enjoy courting the controversy and poking fun at Spider-Man fans, which I consider myself one of them, but the ones who can't get over something that happened 18 years ago, I like to make fun of them. But I don't actually want to argue with somebody about this. Like, I know how Sal feels and I get it. I just don't agree.
What does
And-
Sal say?
Well, Sal feels like the character is stagnant. He feels like, Editorial and Marvel have done,
He's
they
got
have
the
done
common,
it.
the common feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it.
Matt Fisher with the 199. For you audio listeners, you should tune in because I'm just going to make a face. Marco.
Great podcasting.
Yeah.
Love it.
Hey, to be fair, he warned.
I like how Matt Fisher is giving super chats where you just can't read.
In some
It's
instances,
not.
yeah.
It's an emoticon. Yeah.
Matt Fisher, you were the man. You were the man. All right. We've got a lot more show to do. We want you guys to stay locked in because we're going to talk. Not only are we going to tell you the final 4 books for the Captain America book club, we are also going to be going through our number 4 and number 3 favorite Captain America moments because it is Captain America month around here. We're going to talk about we're going to talk about the tale of Rob Liefeld's final breakup with Marvel.
Put your Levi's on and get ready for that.
And of course, we are going to be giving away a copy of the Power Fantasy Volume 1. So if you want to win that, you're going to want to stick around. We've got a lot more fun show to come. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the prior conversation, but also want to hear the rest of what we've got to say here. So first of all, I want to announce the final 4 books of the Captain America book club. These are the books that you, if you are a Patreon or a patron of ours, can vote for. Any tier patron can vote in the poll. So we definitely want you and encourage you to make sure that you do that. These are the final 4 options. We have Captain America by Ed Brubaker, Steve Epting, and everybody else. Captain America by Rick Remender and John Romita Sr. Secret Empire by Nick Spencer and Rod Reese, and etc. And Operation Rebirth by Mark Waid and Ron Garney. Those are some pretty hot choices, I would say. Now, Captain America by Brubaker is winning pretty handily. But there's still a chance for other books to pop up.
I gotta say, I really want Secret Empire.
I know Sean's got takes on Secret Empire. That I don't think we've ever heard those takes either because he's always been like, well, if we ever do a book club.
Fighting high moments for that one. Hoping for it because I want to read that. That's supposed to be like the next level wild shit for, I don't know, for this character.
Can I drop a bombshell real quick that apparently the 3 other dudes on the podcast aren't aware of? We've already done a book club on Secret Empire.
Not me.
Well,
What?
that's fair. You're excluded. Yeah, we did. We did all of Nick Spencer's Cap and Secret Empire.
I must have been moving. I don't remember that at all.
That's a safe bet at any time, Cale. Just use that as an excuse.
So it's yeah. Sounds like something I was doing hopping countries.
Yeah, we did. It was really good. It was obviously a while ago, but I definitely remember it. I wouldn't be opposed to talking about it again. But I guess I would prefer to talk about something we haven't already discussed.
Did you guys? I mean, with the new format of the book club, the context of Secret Empire could be very interesting.
That is very true. That is very true.
I wonder if Nick Spencer can give us one of the death threats he received, so we can quote that on the show.
Oh God,
We can play some Tucker Carlson clips, maybe.
Which one's your favorite? Nick, could you send us some tweets that are your favorite death threats?
Wild.
where the fuck is Nick Spencer to even get him? Where do we get him?
Where's he been around?
I think he's locked in Substack somewhere. I don't think they let him back out.
The basement of Substack. Oh my goodness.
Uncanny
yeah.
Suit. The 199 says, which of the pals can do the best Liefeld cap pose?
Who has the biggest tits among us?
Yeah, nice, Marco.
Well, Marco wins again.
Marco pushing those things out.
I tried.
Marco, Marco got it all.
I try. A little bit
Uh,
more time at the gym.
That trip to DR really did wonders for you.
Got that
Wow.
BBC.
No, he doesn't.
Excuse me?
Oh, okay, sorry.
What
That means
the
something.
fuck?
That means something different. Where
Oh,
Cale
sorry.
is. Yeah, that's a TV channel.
What is happening? There's someone in the chat named Marco's Minute. Who the fuck is that?
Bro, they were there on Thursday.
Said,
I
man, this
call-
show is missing something. What
Is
are you
it?
talking about?
Missing Marco.
Who are
BBC.
Reveal yourself.
That's definitely promiscuous time traveler. Let's be real.
Oh.
Oh,
yeah,
true. Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. Good point. I want to say a huge thank you to Dylan Thomas, who just joined our Patreon page. Thank you so much. You will definitely be eligible to make sure you can cast your vote in the poll. Again, if you guys want to influence the results, that's the only way to do it. So if you don't want Brubaker Cap to win, or you want to let us know that you want it to win badly, head on over to patreon.com/thecomicspals. But what we need to do now is get into our number 4 and our number 3 books for or not books, but moments for the top 5 Cap moments. Who is ready to go with that?
I can go. What are we at? 4
We're
or
at
3?
4.
Yeah,
We're doing
4.
4 and 3. Yep.
Yeah, I can go. It's funny enough. It revolves around something we just mentioned. My number 4 is when Captain America, the actual Captain America, comes back in Secret Empire. For me, that was more of the context around it is what I liked. Secret Empire and Cap being Hydra Cap was this big thing in comics. Not even just in comics. It was on the news. That was a big deal. People were complaining about it, like, "Oh, can you believe what these woke people are doing, making Cap a Nazi?"
Do you remember the photo of Chris Evans disappointingly reading?
Yeah, yeah. But like that's exactly what the
issue.
whole discussion around it was. And like me as a comic fan, I'm like, simmer down. Read the story. And then once Steve Rogers eventually came back because of a cosmic cube that was actually a little girl, and I think there was like a bowling alley at some point too. But when Cap comes back to confront him, I was like, there we go. This is comics at its core. Just enjoy the ride. And I thought it was a really fun time. So Cap coming back in Secret Empire is my number 4.
And your number 3?
Number 3 as well. So let's go back to a Matt Fraction event. Let's go back to Fear Itself, where for my first time reading comics, that's when the first time I saw Steve Rogers pick up Mjolnir. It was one of those things where it's like, that was probably in comics that, previous to me reading comics had happened. Storm picked it up at one point. But for me, seeing that in an event book was a big deal. And at the time I was kind of lukewarm on Fear Itself. A lot of my enjoyment of it came from being a big Thor fan at the time, from Fraction and JMS's runs. But seeing, like Cap proper for the first time do that was like, it was a big fanboy moment for me. The way people freaked out during Endgame when he does that is how I felt reading that in the comics when it first happened. I was like, oh hell yeah. So that was a big deal for me. And I think who was the art on that? Was that Eminem at the time? Possibly.
I don't recall.
Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
I think it might have been. Yeah.
Gorgeous stuff. That's like that single page just lives in my head rent free.
For me, I'll start with number 4. Captain America showing up in Born Again was a cool moment. The interaction that they had. I'm actually, for anybody in the Discord, I'm going to be slapping on a sticker of a particular moment where Cap goes up to the general. He's espousing his beliefs and what he wants to do and why. And he goes up to the American flag. And he says, "I'm loyal to nothing, General, except the dream." I'm like, hell yeah, dude. This guy kicks ass. Taking names while he's at it. So really fun moment, and not always where I see Cap. I don't have as extensive a knowledge, so the bits I've seen are really cool when they're in the mainline universe, not like a like a Twilight or something.
You can say you're unpatriotic, Marco. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm actually Canadian. Um, number three is a moment that stuck with me from the Civil War when we did that book club. And in particular, it's the moment where he gets attacked or he gets held down after beating Iron Man by the people. That's a very like powerful moment. And he turns to Falcon and he says, we're not fighting for the people anymore, Falcon. Look at us, we're just fighting. I was like, damn, my dude, like he's reflecting on what this all means. He's a symbol of something, and in the context of this civil war that's been happening, he's a larger symbol for the idea that he's trying to espouse, and he's doing damage to it. It turned from something ideological to something personal, and that carried a lot of weight for him. And I thought that was great. It really helped elevate that book on top of already being a very what I felt like nuanced conversation.
Yeah, that actually is my number four. I felt like that was a very unexpected way for the um the event to end. And it showed a level of maturity, I think, that uh big two comics often will suffer from, in that there's always got to be a clear winner, and the other side's gotta, it's got to be black versus white. And it was very much just like Cap just saying, look, it doesn't matter, we're actually making this problem worse, we're exactly what the problem is. And I thought that was huge. And then it went into a massive alien invasion, and listen, you can't have it all. But the mature storytelling there, just it really, like, it takes Cap to a different level. My number three, I'm actually going to take a page from Marco, but I'm going to do it better. My number three is the elevator scene in Captain America Winter Soldier. You set that soundtrack to Old Town Road and watch that. Have you guys seen that video? Oh, it's great. But it's just,
The
it's
Lil
so,
Nas X song?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Is it the remix with the yodeling kid?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
It's such a good tense moment. That just like shows you the limit, that when he puts his mind to it, Captain America has no limit. And it's bravery, it's intensity, it's ferocity. And he will do anything he needs to for the cause he believes is the right way.
Hell yeah. That's what I love so much about Cap. He's the man. For me, my number four is when Captain America is in Civil War, when Captain America approaches Maria Hill to discuss what's going on in issue one, and she essentially tells him, hey, the plan is for us to, do this, that, and third, and he's not trying to. Um, and she has all the agents pull up on him with their guns, and then he jumps out the window and he lands on that plane, the jet, and he rips the top off or whatever, and he says, all right, bring this down, son. I love that moment. It really, it's just badass. It's just a very, very, very cool moment, and a character that people often say is like basic or lame. um you know he's just cool, and that was the first time I thought of Captain America as cool. My number four, though, or excuse me, number three is when Captain America holds Mjolnir in Secret Empire. the bad Cap, evil Cap, Hydra Cap, when everybody is calling into question, how is this guy? This isn't our Cap. Something is wrong with him. We don't trust him. And he lifts Thor's hammer. And that is proof that this is the same Cap. It's proof that he's pure still. He's pure of heart. And I believe Thor even kneels before him or something like that. It's an incredible moment. And I remember going, well, they're screwed now. They're screwed now. Not only because Cap held Thor's hammer, but because, this is a guy who purely believes in his mission. That's the only thing that the hammer needs, is somebody pure in mission and pure of heart. His heart was pure. He believed it was right. And that's what let him hold the hammer. But it wasn't going to go well. And so I thought that was brilliant. But yeah, keep sharing your top 5 moments with us. We want to hear them. There are a lot of great Cap moments. I want to hear about something that I haven't, encountered or read before.
Yeah, that would be cool. I've had trouble with this one. I realized I don't know a lot about I don't like as many cool moments as Cap has. I can't list them for whatever reason.
There's one here. Tom McCown says Cap exposes the president, Nixon at the time, as the head of the secret empire in 1970 saga. That's cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of I had to limit my list to things I read, and I had to kind of narrow my scope because there's a lot of you can look up top Cap moments of all time, and it's a lot of stuff I haven't read. If I'm being honest, I've only really read modern Captain America. I've not done my archaeology on Captain America stuff. So the stuff that Hound mentions with that, never got to. It sounds great though, and I hear a lot of especially the Operation Rebirth and Wade and Garney's run, is something that's on my to read list for sure.
He also has here number 4. Cap jumps onto the Nazi rocket to stop it, and it explodes, killing Bucky and causing him to fall into the ice to be imprisoned until Avengers number 4. Hot damn! Yeah, as an OG, I feel and I wonder if they feel like old war stories, because I think that would be more interesting to me. I like that as a genre in comics. So if there are those moments, as opposed to maybe some spy thrillers, which still work, curious how those sit.
And I limited mine to comic books, but I know Marco and Cale mentioned some movie stuff. But I gotta say, the Cap that's in Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes, the cartoon show, is so good. So that would probably be something I would point people to as well.
Let's see. Cole says, and by the way, chat, do I sound fucked up? Let me know if I sound fucked up. Cole says, one of my favorite moments was when Bucky Cap first debuts with the new costume and gun. Jonathan Chu says Cap handing Sam the shield in Rick's run. Yeah, I agree. Both of those were sick as well. Cap is just one of the best characters ever created. It's crazy how good of a character he is. Yeah, it seems like I do sound fucked up. I don't know what to do.
You could just break the mic if you want. You got an internal you could use, or
I feel like breaking the mic. Yeah, that would be cool. But we just spent a lot of comics bucks on it, so we won't do that.
I don't think it's the mic.
We can return it.
That's true, but I don't think it's.
Well, hopefully that's not necessary. I'll just have to do a little bit of troubleshooting. If you guys want to wrap for a couple more minutes, I can try something here real quick.
Go ahead. You know what okay, let's maybe some honorable mentions that aren't on my list that are things I thought about adding. I really like the depiction of the old live action Captain America with the motorcycle.
That movie is so good.
It's fun.
When he throws the shield, it sounds like a tiger roar. It's great.
Low lights. Whenever I get a Captain America on my team in Marvel Rivals, that's a low light. They don't know what they're doing. That's my least
Low
favorite
light.
Captain America.
What does that mean?
Well, highlights. You got your low lights.
Oh,
Things I don't care much
Come
about
on,
Captain
Marco.
America, and it's really just
Right.
shitty teammates in Marvel Rivals. Yeah, like there's a lot of Cap I wanted to check out. Like I've never read those Kirby and Stan issues of Cap, but like Cap punching Hitler in the face on that cover,
Yep.
iconic,
Classic.
iconic comic that I never read.
Hello.
Hello.
You're there.
Oh, hello.
Hi. Hi. Hopefully I don't sound like shit anymore.
Ooh, that is better. Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. Love to hear it. All right. So keep the Cap conversation going. We're definitely going to be talking about him more for the next couple of weeks as we push through our Captain America month. Love the man in the red, white, and blue.
And we have Captain America: Brave New World coming out next week.
Yes, which we will be reviewing. We will definitely be talking about that next week. Not on the show. We'll probably do like a stream after or something like that to do a spoiler full review. So if you are planning on seeing the movie, you can come hang out with us on Saturday after this to talk about that.
I like this uncanny suit. One of my favorite moments is how Stan Lee gradually convinced himself over decades that he was the one who created Cap. Last Young Renegade responded with, "Don't you know Stan invented Jack Kirby?"
Well, a country that is not too pleased with the red, white, and blue is Canada. With all the tariffs and stuff that have been going on, the problems with our overlord who is angry at them for whatever reason, trying to piss Canadians off, there have been some issues. And so Canada is angry. Their people are angry at us, and they are buying. I didn't think that there would be a good to come out of these tariffs and this problem between Canada and the U.S., but they are buying the comic We Stand on Guard at rapid rates. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar, We Stand on Guard is a book by Brian K. Vaughan and Steve Skroce. This came out in I want to say this was like a decade ago.
Yeah.
And it's about a war between the US and Canada. It's literally all it is.
It's good.
Yeah,
It's
it
a
was
good
good.
book.
2015,
Yeah,
literally a decade ago. Yeah.
2015. Damn, dude, that's crazy.
This is post Saga.
Yeah. Because this was like the other thing that he kind of like did for a hot second.
Yep.
It was a short mini series that the interesting part was all the robots are designed after animals, which is really cool to see. It's like a mecha gorilla or something, you know. And Steve Skroce,
Scross.
is I really like his art. He's a definite like instant follow, instant pickup for me. So anything that he does, and now tied with Brian K. Vaughan for this was immediate buy.
Yeah, I remember enjoying this. I think it was pretty solid. It's just hilarious to me that, now people are buying, and it's specifically Canadians, that are buying this book. Like they're ready to go. They're ready to go to war with us. All I think about throughout this whole thing is the South Park movie from '99 or whatever, where
Blame
it's
Canada.
the Blame
Yeah.
Canada shit. That's all I could think about this whole time. And I remember thinking like, that's not realistic. What the fuck? First of all, Canadians are Americans practically, which I guess Trump literally wants to happen. We get along great. Why would we hate on the country that gave us gifts like Pamela Anderson? How could we be mad about that? Canada's greatest import. You want to kill Canada? You want to destroy? I guess I can see why you want to make Canada part of the US because you could have more imports like that. But we got Pamela Anderson. We got Brett the Hitman Hart because of Canada. And now you want to go for them? That's the primary reason that I am mad at the orange motherfucker. It's because you're fucking with Canada. You're going at Canada? Canada?
You heard it here first, guys. Canadians, basically Americans.
Yes.
51st state. That's what he wants.
Would it be 52nd if we get Greenland first? Like, what's the deal there?
Or Panama.
You have
We
to
need
respect
Gaza.
the order. I mean,
Oh yeah, well, don't even talk about that. That just pissed me off. The one thing I will say out of all this, it's nice to see a country that can actually unite from both sides to do something. Because Canadians seem to be, they're boycotting most American goods, and they're cool with it. They're like, cool. They want to do tariffs, which are paused right now. You know, whatever. Let me make a fire and put it out myself and say I did something. You know, it's just cool. It's cool to see it because I know the U.S. won't be able to do that shit. There's no way the U.S. will be able to, like, both sides agree on something. So good on you, Canada, for sticking up for yourself. I appreciate that. And feel free to boycott as much as possible. I will say, though, the Comics Pals has UK involvement. So if you watch the show, you're supporting the UK.
hey, listen, UK's all right. You got Keir Starmer coming to the Orange Man just begging to be recognized. And Trump's still going, nah, fuck y'all. You're basically as European as the Frenchies.
I bet she still thinks they're in the EU.
Probably.
I have no doubt he does.
It's all the
Don't
same.
boycott us, please.
No.
Don't boycott the Comics Pals.
No, that's what I'm
You
saying.
could
Cale is the in. There's your okay.
We're not Canadian. So
Well, that's
boycott fucking real American beer if you want to. You know, boycott what else sucks?
I see in the chat, boycott Drake.
Drake is Canadian. I'm talking about U.S. things that suck.
Well, he's saying
Marco.
Jonathan too.
Oh my God.
apple
guy.
syrup.
Drake is Canadian.
Yeah,
I was
no,
trying to
he's
go
saying-
somewhere. You're disrupting me.
All right.
Jesus Christ, forget it.
Well-
We'll move on.
Have you, before we end the We Stand on Guard, have any of your, Marco, you read it?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it can you recommend it? I mean, apparently you can't get it on Amazon right now because it's fucking sold out.
It's fun. Yeah, it's good.
Canadians got it.
Yeah,
It's
good. It's 6 issues. It's small. It's just a trade.
I think I read the first issue for my old podcast at one point.
I don't disagree, James. Distillery, everybody's favorite. They are reacting. Maybe it's too soon to say they're reacting. But in this new climate, post, the threat of tariffs and the diamond disruption and everything else, Distillery, a company that still stands behind Diamond, they still believe that the comeback will be stronger than the setback. They are launching a new way for you to add value to your comics. Well, your digital comics, anyway. Because Distillery will now be allowing digital comic book remarks and signatures on the covers of their comics. That's right. For a price determined by the creator, you can buy a digital signature or remark. And by the way, a remark is like when they draw a little quick doodle or sketch or whatever on your book.
Aren't these just hand-drawn NFTs?
Why, yes, Tyler, they are.
That's dookie.
I've never gotten one of these books. I've never been able to get one of these books. So like, you're only ever buying in the resale market.
How do you get these digitally? First of all, like that's like the issue I've always had with Distillery. It's like I want to get a book digitally because that's how I read, and if I want to, I have to go to the shop to get the book because that's the only way I can find it best. Because like their whole digital platform is just sloppy.
Don't you just go on their website and get it?
No, it's sold out. They're like all sold out.
Yeah,
you can't actually buy them.
Because remember, the digital ones are scarce.
Yeah,
Right.
Right, yes.
They've created their own scarcity.
Digital scarcity. Isn't it strange that an individual would be more able to get something physically from a comic book store than digitally?
Irony.
It's the most fucking 2024 uh, business strategy I've ever seen, and it's dumb. And like it sucks because look at the first. I have this on the screen here. That first remark. It's Becky Cloonan. It's gorgeous. I love Becky Cloonan's art, and it's relegated to something you look at on your phone.
Yeah, iPad screen if you're lucky.
And that looks like it's physically drawn, but then it's a digital version of it. Do they at least get to sell these remarks on their own shops or whatever? Like, where's the original art go?
That's a good point. Yeah.
Wait, what are you asking?
So, because if you look at the I took the screenshot or the image that Bleeding Cool had, and it's on the slide of these digital remarks. They look like they're drawn physically. Like you can see the gradation, at least with Becky Cloonan stuff, and it might be digital art. It's a really small image, I can't tell, but what it looks like is that it's almost a physical remark scanned and made these digital versions. So assuming that's the case, there is a physical one somewhere. Are they able to resell that? Because sometimes if you draw art for something, you're not allowed to sell it. I think of like Fortnite loading screens. Artists can't sell those because technically Fortnite owns them, even if they drew it physically.
Interesting. I don't know.
She works in inks and physicals, so like
Yeah.
ink and paper. So presumably there is one that exists there, but I don't know what the rights are for that.
It's a weird thing though because you can take so they've got their whole like secondary market, they have their own ecosystem. And you can take these remarks that are done on your digital book and then you can resell that remark or signature or whatever through that marketplace, that marketplace they have.
It's turning art into a commodity, which is removing the artistic value in my eyes to it.
What?
I know, which is, I worked IT for actual art galleries in New York City, and that's all that was really. It was just an investment property.
It's the reselling of comics. You know, you buy number one.
It
And
infuriates me. I hate it.
I we knew that this was something like this would be coming. We knew that they had the idea of the digital marketplace and all this stuff. I just feel like Distillery is the company of gimmicks. I really want to like them. I think the creators involved are stellar. They have a roster of creators that's arguably unrivaled. Maybe you'd have to look at Ghost Machine to see something as good as what they've put together. But nobody talks about their books. People only talk about their gimmicks and all this stuff that's like who like you're like if I could get a piece drawn by a Becky Cloonan or a Tula Lotay, I'd be really happy.
Yep.
But digitally, I don't give a fuck about that.
And for all it's worth, the books are good. Like I just gifted Sona to a friend, and she finally finished it, and she said it was fantastic. But like, I had to get that in collected form at a Barnes and Noble. Like I couldn't find that. I think I might have the first issue actually, but like it's hard enough to find that in stores, and the dreaded word floppy version of this. So like it's the gimmicks just really kill any of the buzz behind the actual creative of these books.
Yeah, like it kills my interest, quite frankly. I've bought quite a few Distillery books. I haven't read them yet. That's on me. But I just don't have any excitement towards them. I don't. And it's stuff like this that makes me go, they're not interested in that. They're not interested in that. And I know the creators are. But when every single announcement that I hear about Distillery is a new what feels like a grift,
Remember when we were saying this about Bad Idea?
yeah.
Wild.
At
It's
least
just, Distillery made it last.
Well, at least Distillery's putting out books.
They're actually making books. Yeah. Are they?
The only company that has made this sort of thing work, and they do a lot of other things as well, but like Whatnot has done a great job because Whatnot and Massive Publishing are the same. And so they've done a great job of being able to create it's not a digital marketplace, a physical marketplace, but they've been able to create that through their streams and stuff like that. They sell comics all the time, and Massive Publishing is doing all right. Distillery, I don't know their financials. I don't know anything about that. I just struggle to know, like, are there people that are so into Distillery that they're buying into all this stuff?
And like the idea that Distillery was creators first and they would have control over these properties. I don't see any buzz about any Distillery things becoming TV or movies. Like they just, fart out a new book every so often and I can't get it or I can't read it. And that's all that the company is to me.
Yeah, Dan brought up the question we're all asking. Is any of this working? Is Distillery successful? Is it a better deal for the creators? Like, I would genuinely love to know.
One of the issues that has always been is whether or not it's even available to purchase. And the UI gets confusing. I hop back on just to see if anything's changed. I'm on Samna #1, cover A Clunin. It says sold out for $15, but I can buy it digitally, so presumably that means the physical. But there are times where for other things, for other covers, I can't even buy those digitally because they're sold out because of the scarcity.
Yeah.
I hate that you have to buy digital covers.
Dude, they have these commissioned remarks. It looks like they're just blank sketch.
It looks like sketch covers, yeah.
Yeah, but they're selling the blank ones, so you have the opportunity to request it. For example, this one, Gone by Jock, it's a blank cover at the moment. It is $100 to purchase this blank digital version of this book.
Wait. It's $100 to buy a blank JPEG that you would then theoretically have to pay more from the creators to then digitally draw over that so that maybe you could then sell that digital drawing for more than what the fuck are people spending their money on?
So it's $100 for the digital issue plus the commission sketch. So
Plus the commission, okay.
It will take, it's a one color head or figure sketch of your favorite Gone character. This will take up to 4 weeks to complete. Price includes the digital Gone #1 sketch cover, which is the blank, and the actual cover itself.
Still dumb. Buy some eggs instead.
James Jones says, ignore the gimmicks. White Boat, Gone, Life, and Spectrograph are all really good books. I don't bother with the gimmicks. And that's great. But I think the messaging surrounding Distillery keeps people from deciding to make purchases with them. If it's bizarre for me that I haven't read any of their offerings. I've read a comic from every major publisher, but I just don't read Distillery's comics. I don't like the format, and I feel like there's silly shit going on, and they're super expensive. Like they're $8.99, $9.99 a piece for an individual issue, bar none. Like that's how it is.
And Ben Lally says, are we really judging them for trying this in an industry where people vomit money on variants? No, well, we do critique actual physical variants as being maybe a little too much, but at least there is a reason that can be justifiably made because of the way variants work in the physical market and how they prop up and help comic shops buy certain amounts of comics. None of that matters digitally. You don't own this. If Distillery shuts down, you're probably going to lose access to it. That's what I'm judging, the digital aspect of things. All this money you're investing in a company, you're also having to invest money in the idea that the company exists a year, 3 years down the line.
Yeah. Do we know if this is DRM free?
It's probably all blockchain. So it's outside of DRM. So are they on some kind of chain that is outside of Distillery, or can they then transfer it somewhere that's outside of Distillery so you can have it on your crypto wallet or some shit? I hate that I even recognize some of these terms now.
Hope nobody loses a password.
Yeah, word.
I don't know. I'm still waiting to feel it from Distillery. They've got great creators, but their messaging has just been rough, and they've got to make a change. This is like, what are we, 2 years into the experiment here?
Or no?
2 years and you've not read a single book by them.
Nope.
Which is wild for some of the creators to have on there.
I swore I would Jamie McKelvey's book that came out recently would be the one I pick up, and to be honest, I still haven't done it. Like,
I was going to ask, how was it?
I was really hyped about it. Really went, okay, this will be the one. Haven't even looked for it.
And look at that. Cole says, if you look at the Distillery marketplace, it's only creators and founders themselves reselling.
Oof.
Damn.
Sounds like a circle jerk.
Well, we don't get too many opportunities to talk about Distillery because what they do is tough to follow, but not a good look. Hopefully, the next time we discuss them, we'll have better things to say. Someone who never has anything good to say is Rob Liefeld. And he is saying, surprise, surprise, some more negative things about Marvel Comics, Marvel the entity, I guess, who he claims on his podcast he is done with for good, forever, and finally, because they disrespected him. They disrespected him in a big way. He talked about this on the Robservations podcast, which, for what it's worth, I've listened to a couple times, and I do enjoy it.
It's very listenable. Rob can talk.
Yeah, definitely. And I like to hear from people who have walked the walk, so to speak. You know, say whatever you want to say about Rob. I mean, the dude has sold a lot of copies of comics through his effort. So, anyway, he's angry because he feels as though during the process of basically from the inception of Deadpool and Wolverine, he feels that he has been the film. I mean, he has been kept in the dark, not really brought into the fold, and all of these negative feelings basically coalesced when they had the Deadpool and Wolverine premiere event and after party in which Rob Liefeld was not allowed to be present. Um, he was not invited to the after party.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yikes.
According to the Bleeding Cool article, who they're extrapolating from the Robservations podcast, quote, the creator of Deadpool discovered that he and his family were not invited to the premiere after party and was blanked by Marvel Studios boss Kevin Feige on the red carpet, stating that, quote, it was meant to embarrass, diminish, and defeat me. He also discovered that after being asked by Disney representatives to pose for photos with people involved with Deadpool and Wolverine, his publicist later told him that any official photos taken with him and the movie cast and crew were deleted. He also cites his issues beginning in 2023 when Marvel chose to give co-creator status of Wolverine to the editor Roy Thomas of the comic where Wolverine first appeared, against usual creative protocol where it's the writers and artists who get that credit, causing consternation across the industry with Liefeld close to Wolverine's creator Len Wein's widow Christine Vallada. So yeah, Rob has been complaining about credit and the way that credit is given based on some of these 90s-ish Marvel characters that he or others had a hand in creating, and they feel like Marvel is doing a bad job of handling that stuff. And he feels like Marvel burned him by mistreating him, not just throughout the creation of the movie, but on the day of the premiere. And he says that Fox was way better. They treated him way, way better, and that Disney doesn't give a shit about him or comic book creators.
I'm of two minds about this. First, I do think it'd be nice to have a little more creative creator recognition in movies, as opposed to just a footnote towards the tail end of the credits that you don't even pay attention to while you're waiting for the post-credit scene to happen. I think like Siegel and Schuster, they get like opening credits recognition. But like it would be nice to see in the opening credits like created by so and so. That being said, even though I think the message of what Rob's saying here has some salience to it, he's just personally offended. And all of this feels very personal and just about him. Like I can see why he's upset that he's not at the after party. His son is a fledgling actor. Of course he wants to bring his son to the after party for an MCU movie. That's important for a young actor's job, to be able to, shake hands with people. So like, I'm sure he'd want to go there, but at the same time, like, who Rob is And I think Dan said it here. In comics, he's a superstar. In the movie business, he's just another little guy. Which, that's just the nature of it. You don't work in the movies. Sorry.
Why? Yeah. Why should you get to go to the after party?
Yeah, like what are you going to do there besides maybe try to get people to recognize your son? You know? So I just think that there's a lot like his core point, understandable, how he's going about it, and I think what really offends him just reeks of somebody who's just not on top of the world anymore.
Yeah, there's an argument for the creative rights there and wanting that representation. Um, but for the smaller stuff, it can go to someone's head, I guess.
And also notice how no mention of Fabian Nicieza in anything that Rob, at least that I've seen, talk about. The writer who created Deadpool, who said everything's fine and dandy on his end.
Did he get an invite? Maybe he got the invite. I don't know.
I wonder if Rob got an invite, but not his whole family.
No, so he and his family were not invited to the premiere after party. So none of them were invited. He was at the premiere, just not the after party. And one of his problems was wanting to be the lead credit for the Deadpool movie ahead of Fabian Nicieza and other people that they might have wanted to credit. And I guess Marvel just had no care for that. And so for me, I like Rob, actually. I like Rob Liefeld. And I don't feel weird about saying that. I think he's an interesting person. He's lived one hell of a life. He's had a lot of success that certainly I envy. And I like that he's willing to say what he thinks. However, you are dealing with Marvel Studios, which is a completely different entity than Marvel Comics. You, as Rob Liefeld, have zero relationship with Marvel Studios. Marvel Comics, certainly a lot of people that work there you've known for years and have directly worked with. Marvel Studios, you don't have that. So you're throwing your weight around because you created the character, but Marvel Studios doesn't give a fuck about that. And you could say, well, they should. All right, maybe they should, but does that give you the right to reach out to them to say, hey, yeah, by the way, I want to be credited first before others in this movie? That doesn't smell right to me.
That's scummy. Like saying, oh, specifically, I want to be first is such a pick me attitude. First of all, you drew a knockoff Deathstroke costume. I would say that the actual character of Deadpool has nothing to do with Rob Liefeld outside of the initial design.
Be that as it may, right? Like, you are trying to assert yourself in a situation where nobody sees you the way you're seen in comics. And the second point I wanted to make is that when we're talking about Marvel Comics, Rob Liefeld has been shitting on Marvel Comics for a decade.
Yeah.
Rob Liefeld and Tom Brevoort, the current editor of X-Men and someone who's been a head honcho bigwig at Marvel for 20 plus years, had a public war with Rob where he basically told Tom Brevoort he's a fat fuck. How does that same guy expect to get respect from a Marvel anything?
Doesn't dish it out.
And Marvel and Feige have been known to be respectful to creators. Think about like the people they just flew out to the Fantastic Four set. And they did press for that. They were like, hey, look at all these famous creators that have worked on Fantastic Four at the set. It was like Ryan North, tall ass motherfucker, Dan Slott, Fraction. They're all there. So it shows that they care about that. And Feige has like talked about these people before. Maybe you've rubbed people the wrong way.
Yep. Especially noting that this was meant to embarrass, diminish, and defeat him. Like he's taken it to be that personal.
Yeah, it's a self-report, really.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think you guys are being a little unfair. Like, obviously, the guy's going to be offended by that. Like, there's no way you wouldn't be offended by that.
Going to an after party?
Yeah, being feeling slighted. It makes how he feels makes sense. His reaction, making this public, and also not seeing that he's being hypocritical because he's disrespected the fuck out of them. That's not cool. But I don't think it's weird that he feels this way. Not at all.
I'd maybe do some
If you
research.
created something and it got a movie, and then you couldn't even go to the after party, you'd feel like shit.
I mean, I think if other creators were also invited to the after party, then yeah, I'd probably feel like shit. But I wouldn't expect it. People barely expect any money out of this, which is a whole different issue. I think
Cole says Fabian was invited and Rob was not.
Damn. Well, all right. I'll give him that.
maybe some self-reflection would be nice too, but sure.
Like I said, I think he's a hypocrite. I think he dishes it out but can't take it. And he's been doing this for years. Rob has never kept his mouth shut.
Yep.
Rob has always been disrespectful and rude publicly to people, and he doesn't care he doesn't care about that. So when somebody is rude and disrespectful to you in public, I guess he feels disrespected. Well, how many negative things have you said about Marvel over the last decade plus?
And also the timing of this announcement coming, a week before the final issue of his comic comes out? Like, worker's going to work.
Sure.
Yeah.
Pete Collins says it in the chat. I feel Rob abides by a controversy equals cash philosophy.
Yeah. I almost think that gives him more, like, he's not in control of himself. Like, it's great that he has a podcast, and if I had a story to tell, I would come on this podcast and tell it because you guys would show up to hear it. So that makes sense. But Rob Liefeld doesn't have self-control because he crashes out on Twitter against people who could employ him, and he doesn't give a fuck. So I'm not sure how much of a plan and strategy that is.
Gail Simone posted about this on her Facebook, and I was reading the comments, and there's so many comments where, like, people just barely criticize Rob Liefeld, and he blocked them. Even, like, people that are giving him credit maybe said one thing that was just a little blocked.
Us.
Sure.
We talked about this the other day. Like, we had a really great interview and experience with him at Wizard World when we got started. Couldn't believe we got it, and we're blocked. Like,
First interaction, only interaction.
Uncanny Suit says, did Brubaker and Lemire get flown out for Cap and Moon Knight, respectively? Definitely didn't feel like Lemire got any love from Marvel when Moon Knight came out. I am not. I don't defend Marvel Studios on this subject in any way. I think Marvel Studios has sucked when it comes to showing creators respect. I think they have sucked ass. I think it's fucked that the guy who created Rocket Raccoon died broke while that character was a part of a several $100 million making film franchise. That sucks. Marvel sucks for that. But I don't think that Rob's reaction is commiserate with what was done, considering what he has done.
And it's also a corporate-wide thing that's happening. Like, Brubaker had a lot to say about the money he was given for Winter Soldier. Yeah. Even though he was in the movie. He makes a cameo. Yeah.
Yep.
The Jeff Lemire one's a little tricky because that was a COVID era. I'm not even sure there was a premiere. So that's tricky. But, like, that exists. But at the same time, Rob he's ruffling the wrong feathers a lot.
And there's a way to talk about it. You know, there's a way to talk about it. And I would hear it from Ed Brubaker 100% because Ed Brubaker's not a shit talker. He's not a guy who you're going to hear every negative thought he has that doesn't come out of his mouth around us. Like in the public space where we can see.
His critique on it was from a company standpoint, as opposed to fuck Kevin Feige. He didn't look at me.
Yeah.
PTT says, am I wrong to assume that Rob is a narcissist? No, I don't think you're wrong to assume that. Of course, we don't know the man personally, but I do feel like some of the things that he has done don't speak well to his character. And like I said, I like Rob. I like him. I think he's funny. I think he's interesting. But I also think he's got some character flaws that it doesn't seem like he's that interested in taking a look at. So poor Rob. Poor Rob.
Poor Rob. Oh no.
He's got pillows of cash to land on. Young blood is apparently coming back or whatever. So
I am excited for that. That
Good
should
for
be
him.
interesting.
I'm sure the Benjamin you give him he can wipe away his tears.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly. And his poor son, who had to watch his dad get disrespected like that, I'm sure will carry on the Liefeld name nicely. He'll probably be an actor of great success and merit and all that other shit because some people fail up.
Wish that were me.
Are we talking about the Canada thing still in the presidency? I'm sorry.
All right. You guys have been patient. You guys have been good. Let's do a giveaway. Let's talk about the way we're going to do this giveaway, but not before we get to Dan Trudeau's $5 super chat. Rob is a narcissist. Angry he has to deal with more powerful narcissists.
Met his match. Oh no.
Or he's just a fish who was in a small pond who, tried to get into the ocean and found he was swallowed up whole.
Bigger fish. Big fish in a small pond.
Sounds like a great plot for like a good Sebastian Stan indie movie.
Why Sebastian Stan?
He's doing an indie movie run right now. He's doing great work. Check out his shit. It's very good. A Different Man. Oof, very good.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Let's get a copy of the Power Fantasy Volume 1 in one of your hands. We recently interviewed Kieran Gillen, who is one half of the primary members of that creative team. Of course, Casper Wingard on art. It's a great book, great looking book. If you enjoy Kieran Gillen's X-Men, Immortal X-Men, then I think the Power Fantasy is up your alley. If you've enjoyed Kieran Gillen's indie work, the Power Fantasy is up your alley. So what do you guys think? How should we do this? Do we want to let's do like, go ahead.
I've already been collecting all the names. I'm ready to just press a button, pull a name out of here.
But I want it to be somebody who's with us now. I want it to be somebody who has stayed with the show, who's been paying attention and listening. Would it be possible for us to have everybody put in the chat like an exclamation point, and we can collect those names?
Please, like pick a number from 1 to 50.
Forget it. CW Gordon already said dibs.
Oh, easy enough.
There we go.
Done.
Thank you. Easy.
Well, what happened the last time when somebody won who was outside the U.S.? We had to what did we have to do? We had to
Oh, it
jump
was a
through
whole-
hoops.
It
yeah,
got
whole-
funny. It got funny.
Wasn't that bad.
If there's an,
shipped it from
I
my
know,
place, didn't we?
I know it's
Yeah, I think we shipped it out from Cale's because he was in Europe.
It's fine.
Okay, cool. So we're good. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take everybody who puts an exclamation in the chat from right now, is eligible to win a copy of the Power Fantasy Volume 1. Hopefully, nobody is doing this that already has it. We want to make sure new people are getting to read it. Is Adam Smith in the chat? Is that Adam with Bernie? Are you the Adam Smith? Because if so, it's good to see you. It's good to see you either way. But if you are that Adam, it's been a while. While that's happening, while you guys are throwing those exclamation points in the chat, what we're going to do is we are going to get through the rest of the thank yous to the members of the Palsverse, and we have a new origin to do. And then after this, we will announce the winner of the Power Fantasy Volume 1. So I want to say thank you as well to the Grand Alchemist, Chop Harder Alchemist, John Barrier B, Doomsday David Melendez Doria, Steve Swarm Canaris, Panda v Panda Ted Wong, Mad Max the Absolute Overthinker, Blur Jekyll Jose, Kobe the Crafter, Scriptured the Wardens of the Word, Hecatron, the Hate Machine, Amin Almighty Perez, Jasper Eddy, whose origin is already written and will be out next week, and getting their origin today from Mr. Marco himself, Houston Murphy. Marco, take it away.
This is a day in the life of Houston Murphy, aka the Century Kid. Cling, cling. Houston opened his eyes and gasped for air. He was dazed. The high noon sun burned his eyes as much as it did his skin. He was laid out on his back. Cling, cling. His mouth was dry with dirt, but he could feel the pooling of something metallic tasting. And why was he on the ground? Last he remembered, he was... Cling, cling. Oh, there was fire in his belly, familiar but lacking the courage that moonshine gave him. No, that there was a bullet. Cling. A figure came between Houston and the scorching ball in the sky. The shadow he cast was long and crooked. It kicked away as a worn Smith & Wesson. After all these years, seems you finally lost your venom, eh, Century Kid? Houston looked up. It was the Crimson Cowboy, a recent adversary. The cowboy had stolen diamonds from a local shop, taken hostages, and threatened to burn the entire town down with a bomb. As he'd done so many times before with villains like him, Houston freed the hostages, defused the dynamite, and had cornered Cowboy down a dirty alley. Unfortunately, this time, the cowboy drew quicker, and Houston Murphy was bleeding out on the road. Ain't you tired of this, Red? Tired? Ha! You won't know. You know I won't stop. I can't stop. Not until I've collected that bounty on your head. 14 million pals, Bucks? He takes a step back and looks away to maniacally twirl his mustache, grinning from ear to ear. Not until it is I who can claim to have killed the 100-year cowboy, the wayfaring westerner, the gun-slinging superhero known as the Century Kid. The cowboy looks back down and gets dirt thrown in his face. He lets a bullet fly, pew, which bounces off a wall and knocks the lid off a nearby trash can. Houston rolls over to his gun and fires 3 bullets. Boom, boom, boom. The first disarms his foe. The second hits a rusted pipe off a wall, causing it to fall behind the Crimson Cowboy. And the last nips at his feet. In the process, he trips over the pipe and falls butt first into the trash can. Embarrassed, he tries to wriggle his way out, but to no avail. At that, he hears spurs walking his way. Looking up, the Century Kid is fist in hand. You know, Crimson, the ever-growing bounty can get tired. And thanks to that Apache curse, that may be the rest of my immortal soul's life. But the one thing that never gets old is kicking the snot out of you hot-shot upstarts who think they can get the jump on me. I've been at it for 150 years. Have a good night, kid. No, 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 no. Pow! Thank you so much, Houston Murphy, for saving the day once again. Yo,
right.
cowpoke.
Oh, it's all right.
Did you take inspiration from Cale's pick of the two-gun kid from Marvel last week?
No, he's an immortal cowboy.
As I feel all cowboys should be.
Yeah, they deserve to be in all times.
If you want an origin story of your own, if you want to join the Palsverse, you can do that only at patreon.com/thecomicspals. Join the Palsverse tier. We'll get you situated with an origin. Houston, I hope you enjoyed yours. We've got a couple more that we're due, and then we're good. So I want to see that backlog keep growing. I want us to owe more. So we need more people to join into the fold. Join us over on Patreon if you enjoy what we do here, if you are so inclined. If you have fun at these streams and you want to support us and make sure that we can continue to do this in perpetuity, let's keep it going. Let's keep the train rocking. By the way, I just want to point out, I am very happy to say that this amount of people that we have with us right now live is the most people who have ever heard a Palsverse origin live in the moment.
We gotta put out more giveaways in between.
It's almost like I know what I'm doing.
I know.
All right.
Once you did that, I was like, there we go, Sean. Good job.
Thank you. Let's Tyler, you ready with that giveaway?
Oh, was I supposed to do something? Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Almost like he knows what he's doing.
Let's go. Pick a random name, and it is Absolute Overthinker is the winner.
Wait.
Oh,
All
shit.
right. Hell yeah, Max. Congratulations. So
Bet you
all you
didn't.
need to do, Max, is reach out to, I guess, me, any one of us, doesn't matter, on Discord and send us your address if you are comfortable with that. Well, you have to be to win the fucking prize. And we will get it out to you as soon as we possibly can.
Well, so you got like a PO box or something. That'd be weird, but it's possible.
True.
We need to get a PO box. Fucking Lucas Holner is sending me. What comic is he sending? He said he was going to send me Lex in the City, something I absolutely do not want. But I won the bet, and I need something. I need my I want to say I need something, but it's so fucked up. What do I need? I need my pound of flesh, so to speak.
Ooh.
So, yeah, well, it's better than what I wanted to say. And I need my pound of flesh, and I need it signed. So Lucas Holner is sending me a signed copy of Lex in the City.
Honestly, I don't think there could be a better book choice than that.
It's a beautiful thing. I can't wait to receive it. But we do need a P.O. box because I don't need to be sending random... Lucas is a great guy. I don't need to be sending random people my fucking address so I can claim Lex in the City signed comics.
From somebody not even on the creative team of that book. You need to get that.
But that's the best part.
That's got to be graded at this point. You need to get like the golden, or green banner probably on that one.
I wish I had gotten the RoboCop versus Terminator books that Steve Canaris sent me signed by Steve Canaris. I should have asked for that. I fucked up.
Now you know.
Just get him to do a digital one.
Yeah, digital signature right there. He sends you. You know what? He'll message you the JPEG.
Marco, can you get the pals chain set up by next week?
Yeah, easy.
Cool.
5 minutes.
I need you to draw into it. I need your remarks, and I'm not paying extra for it. I refuse. All right. What a show. The Phenomenal AC says freezing rain and snow starting to fall here in Michigan. Going to be a day of hot coffee and omnibus reading for yours truly. That sounds fantastic. I can't think of a better way to spend a day. Phenomenal AC, for some reason, I thought you lived in Australia, dude. Maybe it's because you frequent the Near Mint Condition channel, and I feel like there's so many Australians over there. I just assumed you were Australian. It's cool to hear from another person from Michigan, though. I feel like we got a few of those.
We do, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Mission Knights?
We can try that again.
Michiganians?
Michiganders, I believe. Michigan, something like that.
Michiganers.
Michiganimaniacs.
I like that better.
That one won.
We need to put up a bowl of that. Uncanny Suit says, I'll send you all my copies of Bloodlines, Sean. You can take all my trash. I mean gifts. No.
It's a P.O. box, not a P.U. box. Come on.
He wants to have earned it.
Joe, we already talked about that, brother, man. You're going to have to listen back. We talked about Rob Liefeld.
5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Joe just got
Where
here.
you been,
He
homie?
just got here.
Michigoons. Last Young Renegade wins. Michigoons. I love it.
Michigooners.
There it is.
No. Dan Trudeau's a Michigoon. Michiganders. Ugh.
Yeah, I think the official term is
Michigangsters.
Michigander. Yeah.
That's whack.
Guess. If they like it.
Michigooses.
Yeah, Michigooses is what I'm seeing on Google, too. I don't like that. Shouldn't it be Michigeese?
Is that really on Google? I just made the gander connection.
No, Michigoose apparently is like an unofficial term, yeah.
Yuck.
Yeah, Michigangsters. Hell yeah.
Nice.
That's what's up. All right. Cole. Cole says freaky ass state. Hey man, listen, every state has their thing. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but I have seen a certain website puts up every year
Oh, yeah.
the search terms that people were looking up from that certain website. And I would love to know what terms the Michigoons were looking up last year on that certain website.
Don't worry, Tyler's about to tell us.
Uncanny Suit says, I'm going to go Michigoon right now, fellas. I'll be thinking about y'all. I
you
don't
better
want
not.
to be in your mind. I don't want to live rent free in your head at those times, Uncanny Sue.
You don't want to know what the. So 3 years ago, apparently the search term for Michigan was racist.
Oh no.
Wait, was the search term racist or
The search term was it's probably like race play stuff.
sure?
The term was literally racist.
It's the only. I'm looking at a map that was on Pornhub's, and it was just from 3 years ago, and it was just
Michigan.
racist.
Yo, what the fuck? AC, Dan Trudeau, can you guys explain this shit? Racist? Michigan?
A
Racist?
different year, Michigan got cartoon. It looks like top.
Well, that's better.
searches.
HH.
Yeah, we're on the. Oh man, I just ruined the Comics Pals search history. But
shit.
I think the most recent one is lesbian. So they've turned around.
Okay,
Yeah.
All right.
they've become normal.
Yeah.
The Michiganers, you guys have something explaining to do, and I think I need to see your search histories from 3 years ago.
Oh,
What's
Catherine-
good?
Catherine
Reveal the
says,
chat.
"Dan, the truth. Let's go. Tell us."
The truth is, I was one of those people typing
Uh-oh.
that search term in.
I've been using a VPN this whole time.
Oh, Uncanny Suit is from Michigan too? Oh my god.
What's in the
Michigan
water?
invasion.
What's in the Great Lakes over there? Jeez. 2024. Hold on, I got 2024's numbers. Amateur wife.
Oh. Well then.
The hell does that mean?
The indie stuff. I
Oh.
think the Michigan
indie
Michiganers are into the indie stuff.
Yo.
What does that mean?
That's so good. They're big indie fans. Love that stuff. All romance.
Who are the big two? Fucking Bang Bros.
No.
And
2024's map is wild. Missouri is grandma.
Oh no.
oh man.
We've been on too long.
Why is
That
New
is
York? Why is New
exactly
York's Turkish in 2024? What has Eric Adams been doing?
Turkish.
Turkish. And these are relative to all others, so no one state will have the same one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're okay. Yeah.
It would definitely have to be something different in New York, because Turkish, that ain't getting it done.
Man, Wisconsin got P.
Yikes.
Yikes.
Uh-oh.
Wait, we got anybody here from Wisconsin?
Look,
Can we talk?
did Marco take a trip to Minnesota in 2024? Marco, have you?
Whoa, wait, what?
Okay, it just says something called futa. I don't know what that is.
Oh no.
You don't?
I do know what it is.
Oh, okay.
I don't.
Cale.
Look it up.
No.
But not now.
Oh, hang on. Let me switch to the Pals account.
CW Gordon said Pennsylvania has naked women. Y'all some vanilla motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Yeah, what type of shit is that? Who 12 years old? Like, whose search histories are they looking for? Remember when you're like a little kid and you just type in like boobs?
That reminds me, you ever see that one, like, I don't know if it's a Vine or it's like a TikTok of some guy who finds his little brother's search history on the TV. He's like, yo, this kid looking for a fat woman eating food on YouTube.
Yeah.
Michael Nadeau says, "Okay, enough. We don't need to expose everybody." He's sweating over here.
Yeah. Michael, what state are you from, bro? Let's talk about it.
From the
Let's
UK,
talk about
I
it.
think. He's some
That's where the
nasty
Amish
shit
people
over here,
live.
I bet.
Oh,
That-
Izzy wanted to know the answer for Virginia, Tyler.
Virginia's is, I don't know if Virginia's on this list. No, I think a lot of states got banned with this or were put up with, PH got some age restricted things where you have to like apply. Like Texas isn't on this list, so the only the normal states get to be exposed. West Virginia's was just fat woman. I don't know what's going on in West Virginia.
That's
so.
wild.
Jonathan Chow, we cannot see Canada. It's not the 51st state yet. So
Yeah, just you wait.
Oh my god, dude. Ted H said, "What am I listening to right now?" I don't fucking know. I'm just glad Atomic Count is not here because I don't like to talk this way around my elders. So I'm just glad I don't need him to hear this.
We're gonna hear it too. He's gonna get to the end of this
He'll get back
episode.
to it,
He's
yeah.
gonna, young men.
notice how like BJ just showed up too.
Oh shit, did he?
You better
Yeah, not too
put
long
those
ago.
headphones on immediately when you're
Quick.
Dude, yeah. You better grab your hide your kids, hide your wife. The Comics Pals are on. You
got that.
don't need them hearing this shit.
He gotta protect that new baby's ears.
Yeah, shit, I just cursed. Oh my god, I did it again. Fuck. Oh, okay.
cut the shit.
Oh my god, it's so hard to leave you guys. It's so fun. This show is so fun.
Was this our game?
Yeah. Yeah, we're definitely not gonna play a game now. This took the place of our game. What was Wisconsin again? What was the,
Wisconsin? It was
don't
P.
do
It was P.
Don't do it.
It was P.
Oh, no.
Yeah. It was P. Specifically on fire hydrants, strangely enough. Oh, interesting. Oh man, broke Sean
I
again.
can't.
I was gonna
can't.
leave that one alone.
Oh my god.
Like I said,
dude.
relative to the other searches. So like Nevada's is Vegas, which like, all right, guys, be a little more creative. You can live it. Why are you searching it?
Oh.
CW Gordon, well, y'all got to put this game on the wheel now.
There was actually a version of this that was done for superheroes. I remember that.
Yeah, I could search that one. We could bring it back around.
Well, not today. I think
Let's
we need
see.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Should we just add stats to the to the
we've
wheel?
come up with something interesting here. Figure out how to mine it later.
Electric says, "I thought we already had a whole show on P." Well, we had like an hour's worth of show on the subject, and we won't be going back to that. No worries. I feel like we probably lost subscribers due to that talk. But we're having fun. So what are you gonna do? What's that, Cale?
The P.
Yeah.
Man,
Is that
We got
gone?
into the weeds.
people might have gotten
Yikes.
pissed off on that rather than pissed on.
Okay, all right. Hey guys, thank you so much for listening. Absolute Overthinker, make sure to message us so we can get your copy of the Power Fantasy Volume 1. The next time that we will be live with you is this Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern for Pals Polls. But before that, make sure you check out our latest episode of Pals Previews, which goes up every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Give it a listen. Let's get an episode to 1,000 views. I would love to see that. You guys are in control of it. Near says this would make an awesome palling around. Hey, man, if you like these kinds of off the cuff, kind of like non-comics related talks, that's all palling around is. So if you guys haven't ever heard it before, it sounds a lot like this. But we do, we have some deep conversations too. But we also talk about bullshit. So you get to see a lot more of our real selves, I guess, if you will. So yeah, we'll be live with you on Thursday. Pals previews on Monday. If you have voting power on Patreon, get your vote in for the Captain America Book Club. We need to see those votes so we can tell you what book we're going to be reading, Brubaker's Cap, as soon as possible to get everybody on the same page for it. So go ahead, Tyler.
Is it close at all at this point?
No.
No. Okay.
Well, not since I pulled it up earlier. Maybe things have changed since we've been live. I'll check real fast right now. And it's gotten worse.
All right.
It's less close. 67% of the votes are Ed Brubaker Cap.
Wow.
Rick Remender Cap, meanwhile, has 7% of the vote. You guys don't give a fuck about that run, huh? Is it the Ramita art? Is that what did it for you?
Maybe it's the bearded cap in Dimension Z.
So killed me.
What killed me was the nail. I couldn't stand that character.
Oh yeah.
Matt Cosmo said, "How many issues would we read of Brubaker?" We'll talk about that. We'll make that announcement, but it won't just be like one story arc. It'll be more than that. All right, guys. We'll see you Thursday. Until then, take care.
See you